Chapter 2541. Qin Feiyang sealed the cave with his divine power, shook his head, and entered the castle. Qin Dage, looks like lunatic was right. You're in trouble. Fire Lotus covered her mouth and chuckled. Since when did you learn to talk nonsense? Qin Feiyang couldn't help but roll his eyes. Isn't that the truth in front of you? How is it nonsense? Fire Lotus looked at Qin Feiyang in confusion. Fine. Fine, I'm afraid of you. I'm going to cultivate now. Do whatever you want. After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he went straight into the cultivation room. Fire Lotus shook her head and chuckled. It was rare to see Qin Feiyang in such a sorry state. The granddaughter of the Grand Hall Master came to the Dragon God Palace? Are you sure? Of course. I also heard that she's living with Li Bu, on the first island. What the hell? Living with Li Bu, Ahem. No, I didn't make it clear. Yi Shui, lives opposite Li Bu, They're just neighbors. I knew it. How can they live together? Let's go. Let's go to the first island and meet the granddaughter of the Grand Hall Master. We'll have to depend on her in the future. After knowing Yi Shui's identity, the geniuses of the 10th island couldn't sit still and came to the first island. In an instant. The first island was unprecedentedly lively. However, no matter how talented they were, Yi Shui refused to let them in. Because of Yi Shui's identity, no one dared to force their way in. The pavilion closest to the water enjoys the moonlight first. Why don't I stay here and cultivate too? Good idea. I'll stay too. Me too. All of them persevered and fought for territory in the valley to open up cave residences. In less than 2 days, the entire area of the valley was filled with caves. There were probably tens of thousands of people. When Qin Feiyang found out about this, he was both angry and helpless. Originally, he was the only one in this area. It was especially quiet and comfortable. But now, in the blink of an eye, there were actually several tens of thousands more people. It was even livelier than the downtown area. But there was nothing he could do about it. Because the Dragon God Palace's cave abode was arranged by him, even if someone else was next to him, he couldn't do anything about it. However, since they were both from the first island, it was understandable. However, the people from the other islands were also staying on the first island. Was this in line with the rules? Why didn't the law-enforcing elder who was in charge of the first island do anything about it? Divine Dragon Island. I object. I object too. Yi Zhong, your suggestion is basically handing over the treasures of the dragons to those lowly humans. In a large hall. The dragon sovereign sat on the throne above. His entire body was shrouded in mist, making it impossible to see his expression. However, the various ancestral dragons below were staring at Yi Zhong with righteous indignation. The young man in fiery clothes was also there. But at this moment, his eyes were closed. He turned a deaf ear to the voices around him, as if he was taking a nap. This is just this old man's personal suggestion. If you don't agree, just pretend that this old man didn't say anything. Yi Zhong leaned on the chair, glanced at the various ancestral dragons, and said indifferently. You shouldn't have this idea. The Underworld King's hell is the treasure left by the dragon god to us dragons. Although we will suffer heavy losses every time we open it, the Underworld King's hell has contributed greatly to our dragons being able to stand in the ancient world for countless years. Now that you want us to open it to the outside world, we definitely won't agree. The various ancestral dragons said. Yi Zhong was silent. The dragon sovereign suddenly spoke. Yi Zhong, tell us the purpose of your suggestion. Yi Zhong said, to be honest, this old man really can't think of a way to deal with Qin Feiyang. I didn't expect that it's because you're incompetent. Before Yi Zhong could finish, the youth in blood-red clothes sneered. This old man is incompetent? Yi Zhong raised his eyebrows and said, this old man is incompetent, but at least this old man hasn't suffered a great loss in the hands of Qin Feiyang. But what about you? What did you say? The youth in blood-red clothes suddenly stood up and stared at Yi Zhong with murderous intent. The other ancestral dragons also looked at Yi Zhong angrily. Yi Zhong's words were simply poking at their sore spot. Did this old man say anything wrong? For example, last time on the plains, you set up a trap to lure Qin Feiyang out. At that time, this old man said that Qin Feiyang isn't a fool and that this method wouldn't work. But you just didn't listen. You just had to go through so much trouble to do this, but what happened in the end? Not only did you fail to capture Qin Feiyang, but Old He and the others' bodies were instead destroyed by him. Qin Feiyang even snatched the Sunset Divine Bow and the other 3 heaven-defying divine weapons. This time, the root of the problem has already been sown. Because if it weren't for the betrayal of the 4 heaven-defying divine weapons, would Qin Feiyang have the ability to fight against you in the Internal Sea? Similarly, if it weren't for the instigation of the 4 heaven-defying divine weapons, would the other 6 divine weapons have betrayed you? There's a good saying. One wrong step and the whole game will be lost. And this is the consequence of your arrogance. Yi Zhong scolded mercilessly. Although the ancestral dragons were angry, they had nothing to say. The youth in blood-red clothes suddenly laughed and said, Old man Yi, save some face for them. The ancestral dragons glared at the youth in blood-red clothes angrily. However, the youth in blood-red clothes didn't open his eyes from beginning to end, so the ancestral dragons couldn't vent their anger. Face is earned by oneself, not given by others. Yi Zhong snorted coldly. How stubborn. The youth in blood-red clothes shook his head. That's enough. Yi Zhong, continue what you didn't finish before. Long Zun said. Although Qin Feiyang is young, in terms of intelligence, I'm afraid even we can't compare to him. If we just search blindly, we won't be able to find him. Moreover, even if we find him, what can we do? Now, with the Sunset Divine Bow and the other heaven-defying divine weapons helping him, unless we take out the Sovereign Divine Weapon, we can only be killed in front of him. But other than the Dragon God, who can control the Sovereign Divine Weapon? That's why I thought of the Nether King's Hell. First of all, the Nether King's Hell is an independent space. No matter how we fight in it, it won't affect the innocent. Yi Zhong was interrupted by the youth in blood-red clothes. He sneered and said, so after all this time, you're worried about implicating those lowly humans. Yi Zhong, it seems like you're not that loyal to us dragons. What a joke. If an all-out war really breaks out, do you think Divine Dragon Island will be safe? Don't forget how Qin Feiyang broke the Sovereign's divine realm. Yi Zhong said angrily. The youth in blood-red clothes flew into a rage out of humiliation. Shut up. Let him finish. The dragons shouted. The youth in blood-red clothes' expression changed slightly. He glared at Yi Zhong with resentment. Yi Zhong looked at him indifferently and continued, secondly, the Nether King's Hell itself is very dangerous. We might not even need to do anything and Qin Feiyang will die in there. That's true. The youth in blood-red clothes nodded. Lastly, this is the most important point. You all know the rules and restrictions of the Nether King's Hell. We can't revive any heaven-defying divine weapons or use any heaven-defying divine arts. Even if we take them out, we will be attacked by the power of the rules. Therefore, I think that entering the Nether King's Hell is the most effective and easiest way to get rid of Qin Feiyang. Yi Zhong finished in one breath and looked at Longzuan, waiting for his decision. Longzuan pondered for a moment and asked, but what if we can't get rid of him in the Nether King's Hell? What else can we do? If we can't kill him in the Nether King's Hell, it means that his ability is above that of the dragons. When the time comes, we can only ask the Dragon God for help. Yi Zhong shook his head and said. Your father fell silent. The youth in blood-red clothes finally opened his eyes. He looked at the ancestral dragons and said with a smile, no matter what you all think, I think Yi Zhong's plan is feasible. Nonsense. Of course you think it's feasible. You and Yi Zhong are outsiders after all. The youth in blood-red clothes snorted. All right, do as you wish. Pretend I didn't say anything. The youth in blood-red clothes closed his eyes. Out of sight, out of mind. Since he's an outsider, I have no right to interfere with the matters of the dragons. Do as you see fit. After saying that, Yi Zhong also closed his eyes. The youth in blood-red clothes stared at the two of them angrily. But before he could say anything, he felt a cold gaze locked on him. He froze and quickly looked at Longzuan. I'm sorry. If you dare to say anything else, I'll kill you. Longzuan said with a murderous look. Yes. The youth in blood-red clothes was stunned. He quickly responded respectfully and lowered his head in silence. Longzuan turned to Yi Zhong and said, Are you sure that Qin Feiyang will enter the Nether King's hell? Even Eternal Realm experts like us can't resist the temptation of the Nether King's hell. Do you think he can resist it? Yi Zhong laughed. Longzuan laughed and nodded. All right, I'll leave this matter to you. Thank you for your support, Longzuan. Yi Zhong stood up and bowed. Go. Longzuan waved his hand. Then I'll take my leave first. After Yi Zhong finished speaking, he turned around and left quickly. As an outsider, I don't have the face to stay here any longer. You can continue. The youth in blood-red clothes opened his eyes and said faintly. He then stood up and left. Coming and going as they wish. What's wrong with them? The youth in blood-red clothes grumbled unhappily. You're the one who's wrong. Until now, you still haven't figured out how important they are to us dragons? Let me tell you, we dragons can live without you, but we can't live without them. Longzuan shouted. Why? The youth in blood-red clothes said angrily. Because they've comprehended the power of law, but none of you have. Now that you don't have any divine weapons, if you really fight with them, they can kill you instantly. Have some awareness. Longzuan snorted. When the ancestral dragons heard this, they clenched their fists tightly. They were indignant, but they felt powerless in their hearts. That's right. For someone in the imperishable realm, the power of law was the true method. Chapter 2542. A few days later. A piece of news spread in the north. The dragons opened the Netherworld King's Hell to the public. However, no one knew about the Netherworld King's Hell. For a time, everyone was discussing what kind of place it was. Did it sound like it was something amazing? Another few days passed. Buzz. Qin Feiyang suddenly received a message. The person who sent him the message was Ren Xiaolan from the Treasure Pavilion. Is there an alchemy fire and an alchemy furnace? Qin Feiyang asked with a smile. No. Ren Xiaolan shook her head, looking helpless. What's the matter? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Judging from Ren Xiaolan's expression, she seemed to have encountered some trouble. Ren Xiaolan sighed. I have been expelled from the Treasure Pavilion by the manager. What? Qin Feiyang was surprised. A few days ago, a legendary artifact suddenly went missing on the 10th floor. The manager said that I stole it and thus expelled me from the Treasure Pavilion. Ren Xiaolan lowered her head and said. Qin Feiyang frowned and said, Then, were you the one who took it? How could it be me? I didn't go to the 10th floor at all. Ren Xiaolan said aggrievedly. Qin Feiyang said, Then why did he insist that it was you? I don't know either. At that time, the manager didn't even give me a chance to explain. He just chased me out directly. However, at this point, Ren Xiaolan hesitated. However what? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Although my identity is lowly, I have my self-esteem. After being expelled from the treasure pavilion, I was very indignant. I secretly swore that I must investigate it clearly. So these few days, I ran around and used all my connections. Just last night, I finally found out the truth. Ren Xiaolan clenched her fists, her eyes full of anger. What truth? Qin Feiyang asked. Ren Xiaolan said, this was a trap set up by the manager. Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned and asked suspiciously, why did he do that? Because of you. Ren Xiaolan sighed. Me? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Yes. You established a contract bridge with me, and publicly announced that you would only trade with me. This caused the manager to feel very humiliated. Furthermore, he also thought that I was the one causing trouble. So, he harbored a grudge in his heart and set up this scheme to expel me from the treasure pavilion. Ren Xiaolan said. I see. Qin Feiyang nodded in understanding. Young master, please don't misunderstand. I'm not blaming you. I just can't accept it. I didn't do anything wrong. What right do you have to charge me with a groundless crime and expel me from the treasure pavilion? Don't say that I'm not trying to curry favor with you. Even if I am, I'm doing it for the sake of the treasure pavilion. I hope to bring the greatest benefits to the treasure pavilion. Ren Xiaolan said indignantly. You don't have to explain. I understand. Qin Feiyang waved his hand. My words carry little weight. I can't do anything in front of a manager who holds great power. Young master, I'd like to ask for your help. I've never thought of returning to the treasure pavilion. I just want the manager to clear my name and publicly apologize to me. Ren Xiaolan said. Qin Feiyang glanced at Ren Xiaolan and lowered his head to ponder. Seeing this, Ren Xiaolan couldn't help but feel uneasy. Because the man in front of her was not familiar with her, even if he didn't help her, there was nothing she could do. But now, she couldn't find anyone else. Because among the people she knew, no one had the status and ability of Qin Feiyang. A moment later, Qin Feiyang looked up at Ren Xiaolan and asked, do you have any evidence that he framed you? No. Ren Xiaolan shook her head. Then how did you find out that he framed you? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Ren Xiaolan said, a friend of mine who used to work in the treasure pavilion secretly told me. How did he find out? Qin Feiyang said. Rumors. The staff in the treasure pavilion all said so. Ren Xiaolan said. In other words, this is just the speculation of the staff in the treasure pavilion? Qin Feiyang frowned. Although it's just a guess, it must be right. Otherwise, why would the manager frame me? Ren Xiaolan said anxiously. Don't worry, don't worry. The manager is not an ordinary person. Especially the manager of the treasure pavilion in the Holy Dragon City. He has a high position and power. To deal with such a person, it's useless to rely on rumors and slanders. You must have solid evidence. Qin Feiyang said lightly. Ren Xiaolan said, the manager definitely won't admit to this kind of thing personally. It's definitely impossible to make him admit it personally, but it's not like there's no other way. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. What way? Ren Xiaolan looked at Qin Feiyang expectantly. Qin Feiyang didn't answer and said with a smile, this matter is also because of me. I'll send someone to investigate. You just wait at home for the news. Thank you, young master. Ren Xiaolan quickly bowed to thank him. Qin Feiyang smiled and turned off the image crystal. A cold light flashed in his eyes. Back then, he had said in public that he would only trade with Ren Xiaolan. But then the manager set up a trap to frame Ren Xiaolan. Wasn't he deliberately making him lose face? Wait and see. There will be a time when you cry. Qin Feiyang activated the image crystal again. Buzz. Very soon. A shadow appeared. It was Hua Yi. Where is he? Qin Feiyang asked. In the east with Xiao Jin. Hua Yi said. Qin Feiyang stared blankly and asked in astonishment, why did you run to him? I'm not afraid that he won't be able to handle it well. Hua Yi said with a smile. I think you should go sightseeing now. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes. Hua Yi looked a little embarrassed and coughed dryly. Stop talking nonsense. Tell me, what's the matter? Go to the treasure pavilion in Holy Dragon City and help me deal with something. Qin Feiyang briefly explained the situation. I see. Okay. I'll go there when I have time. Hua Yi nodded. Qin Feiyang asked, did you find anything in the east? Yes. Those two people, one is called Duyuntian and the other is called Wu Baichuan. Duyuntian is the young lord of the west. Wu Baichuan is the young lord of the east. Both of them are at the perfected ninth heaven realm. Hua Yi said with a smile. Duyuntian, Wu Baichuan, Qin Feiyang murmured. Hua Yi said, and we also found out the progress of their replacement of the city lord. Qin Feiyang was stunned and asked, how's the progress? After so long, the two of them have only replaced a dozen city lords. Hua Yi joked. So slow? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Do you think everyone is like you, daring to come up with such a crazy plan? With their speed, they won't be able to complete the task without thousands or tens of thousands of years. Hua Yi said. Qin Feiyang asked, did you find out who's behind them? Are you kidding? Even the dragons couldn't find out the identity of the other two emperors. How could Xiao Jin and I find out in such a short time? Hua Yi was speechless. That's true. Qin Feiyang nodded and asked, what about the divine generals behind them? I didn't find out. Hua Yi shook his head. It seems that it won't be easy to find out the identity of the two emperors. However, we can start with Duyuntian and Wu Baichuan. As the representatives of the two emperors, they should know the true identity of the two emperors. Even if they don't know, the divine generals behind them must know. Qin Feiyang said. I think so too. Hua Yi nodded. By the way, did you find out the identity of the young lord in the south? Qin Feiyang asked. Do we need to investigate this person? Hua Yi was stunned. The young lord in the south was obviously Lu Zhengyang's representative. Therefore, he and Qin Feiyang could be considered allies. Qin Feiyang said with a smile, know yourself and know your enemy, and you'll be foolproof. Okay then. When Xiao Jin comes back, I'll ask him to go to the south first. Hua Yi said. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded and said, don't forget about the treasure pavilion in the Holy Dragon City. You're so concerned about Ren Xiaolan. Tell me honestly, do you like her? Hua Yi looked at Qin Feiyang playfully. I say, can you be more serious? It's because of you that my relationship with Sheng Guanqiu is so awkward now, Gu Shijiu said. Qin Feiyang said angrily. Don't be so ungrateful. I'm helping you. Do you understand? Sheng Guanqiu is such a good woman. You're a typical person who doesn't know how lucky you are. Hua Yi snorted. Thank you. Don't make trouble for me. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but feel helpless. Hua Yi nodded and said, okay. I'm being nosy, future brother-in-law. The more you say, the more ridiculous it is. Qin Feiyang turned off the image crystal directly. The matter between him and Shengguan Fenglan had not been resolved yet, and he was still in the mood to matchmake him and Sheng Guanqiu. This person was really bored. Dong. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Qin Feiyang put away the image crystal, looked at the stone door of the cultivation room, and asked, "Who is it?" "Young lord, the immortal general is looking for you." Jiang Dafei's voice sounded. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and the stone door quickly opened. Jiang Dafei was standing outside. Jiang Dafei was holding the image crystal in his hand, and a man in black armor was floating above it. It was the immortal general. Jiang Dafei walked into the cultivation room and pointed the image crystal at Qin Feiyang. "Young lord, how have you been?" The immortal general chuckled. "What are you doing?" Qin Feiyang asked with a smile. "I've already asked the Qin emperor. The Qin emperor said that we should muddle along with the two young lords." The immortal general said. "Muddle along?" Qin Feiyang was stunned, then looked at the immortal general with a smile and did not say anything. "Ahem. Young lord, I'm not lying to you. These are the Qin emperor's original words." The immortal general was very uncomfortable. He felt that Qin Feiyang's eyes seemed to have an inexplicable meaning. Qin Feiyang retracted his gaze and nodded. "Got it. Is there anything else?" The immortal general was a little uncomfortable when he heard this. Was he not going to pursue the matter? That was not right. When did the young lord become so easy to talk to? "Is there anything else?" Qin Feiyang asked. Yes. The immortal general came back to his senses and hurriedly said, "The Qin emperor also said that we should not go to the hell of the Nether King." "The hell of the Nether King?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. Jiang Dafei was also puzzled. Chapter 2543. Looking at Qin Feiyang's reaction, the divine general asked in surprise, "You still don't know?" "Know what?" Qin Feiyang was suspicious. "It's the Nether King's hell. In the past few days, the news of the Nether King's hell has spread like wildfire in the north. Even the west, south, and east have spread. And you are in the Dragon God Palace, yet you still don't know. What have you been doing every day?" The divine general was speechless. "Is there a need to ask?" "Needless to say, I must have been hiding in the castle to cultivate," Qin Feiyang said. Jiang Dafei asked curiously, "Lord Divine General, what exactly is this Nether King's hell?" "It's a long story." After the divine general finished speaking, he looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "If you are interested, you can ask Yizhong, he knows about this." "All right." Qin Feiyang nodded. "You are now Yizhong's disciple. There are many opportunities to get close to him. You have to hurry up and complete the mission," the divine general reminded. "I know," Qin Feiyang said. "All right then, I won't disturb you anymore." The divine general smiled, and the shadow quickly dissipated. Qin Feiyang looked at Jiang Dafei and said, "You can continue to cultivate as well." "Yes." Jiang Dafei respectfully replied, put away the image crystal, and turned to walk out of the cultivation room. Nether King's hell, Qin Feiyang lowered his head and muttered. What kind of place was this? Suddenly, Qin Feiyang stood up and left the castle, appearing in the cave. When he walked out of the cave and looked at the cave inside and outside the valley, his expression couldn't help but be helpless. At this moment, 5 young men gathered outside Yi Shuai's cave, whispering to each other, as if discussing how to meet Yi Shuai. These 5 people had extraordinary temperaments. Their cultivation was not weak either. Peak 9 Heaven's realm. With their powerful cultivation, they occupied the most advantageous place. The cave was right beside Yi Shuai. However, even though they were close by, they had not even seen Yi Shuai for the past few days. They had also tried many methods. For example, inviting Yi Shuai out to play. Or, He could find an excuse to look for Yi Shui, to discuss cultivation. Anyway. As long as it was a method they could think of, they had already used it. However, from the beginning to the end, Yi Shui ignored them, which made them very angry. Cough cough. Qin Feiyang clenched his fist and coughed dryly. Looking at the backs of the 5 people, he said, "Can you make way? Get lost. Can't you see we're busy?" The 5 of them shouted without even turning their heads. However, as soon as he finished reprimanding him, his expression froze. This voice, the 5 of them turned around at the same time and looked at Qin Feiyang. Their expressions changed immediately. "You're the ones who should get lost. In any case, I'm the first one to live here. You guys didn't even inform me before moving in. I want to ask, are you ignoring my existence?" Qin Feiyang looked at the 5 of them expressionlessly. "Li Bu, you've gone overboard. This is not your private territory. Why should we inform you?" One of them said unhappily. This was a young man in purple. He was handsome and tall, full of arrogance. Qin Feiyang was stunned. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly as he looked at the 5 of them and smiled. "You're still being arrogant with me? Don't misunderstand, we don't know him." Yes. We don't even know his name. He's the one who provoked you. You should look for him. It has nothing to do with us." Seeing that the situation was not good, the other 4 quickly took a few steps back, keeping a distance from the young man in purple. "You guys," the young man in purple looked at the 4 of them angrily. The 4 of them ignored him. He cursed in his heart. "Are you stupid? Don't you know what kind of person Li Bu is? Aren't you looking for trouble by challenging him? Besides, Li Bu was Yi Zhong's disciple and had a close relationship with Yi Shui. Offending Li Bu was equivalent to offending Yi Shui. Only an idiot would stand with him if he could do such a stupid thing." Qin Feiyang glanced at the 5 of them, rolled up his sleeves, looked at the young man in purple, and said, "What did you say just now? Say it again for me. What do you want?" The young man in purple was panicking. "What do you think I want?" Qin Feiyang looked at him with a smile. His eyes were like a weasel looking at a chick. The young man in purple looked at the 4 of them for help. Seeing that the 4 of them were still ignoring him and were even gloating, he panicked even more. "I'm sorry, I didn't choose my words just now. Can you not be calculative with me? How about this, I'll give you a pinnacle divine artifact as a greeting gift." The young man in purple hurriedly said. "A pinnacle divine artifact? Are you trying to dismiss a beggar? Do I look like someone who lacks a pinnacle divine artifact?" Qin Feiyang smiled mockingly. The young man in purple's expression froze. That's right. Not only did this person obtain a supreme divine artifact in the Divine Weapon Pavilion, but he also obtained several legendary divine artifacts. Why would he care about a mere pinnacle divine artifact? How about this, I won't make things difficult for you. 100,000 soul stones a month. Just treat it as the rent. Qin Feiyang smiled. What? 100,000 a month? The rent? The young man in purple was dumbfounded. And he even treated this place as his private territory? How could there be such an unreasonable person? Do you think it's too little? 200,000 a month then? Qin Feiyang said. The young man in purple roared, Li Bu, you can't be so shameless. If you want to win the heart of a beauty, you have to pay a price. How can it be possible for a pie to fall from the sky, right? Qin Feiyang said with a smile. The young man in purple's face turned pale. How was this unreasonable? He was simply a scoundrel. The other 4 hid at the side and couldn't stop laughing at his misfortune. Don't laugh. Not only him, you guys have to pay the rent too. Not a word less. And not only you guys, everyone within a radius of 10,000 miles in this valley has to pay. Qin Feiyang looked at the four of them and said. What? The four of them were stunned. Did he really think that this was his backyard? It's settled then. I'll have to trouble you guys to help me collect the rent. If anyone doesn't pay, just chase them away. Qin Feiyang said to the five of them and walked toward Yi Shuai's cave abode. The five of them twitched their faces. He actually asked them to help collect the rent? That was too much. Qin Feiyang ignored them and stopped outside the cave abode. He asked, can I go in? There was a stone door in Yi Shuai's cave abode. Boom! Not long after he said that, the stone door slowly opened. Their relationship is indeed extraordinary. Looking at this scene, the five of them were filled with envy. Do you see my relationship with Yi Shuai? As long as you guys are obedient, I might even matchmake you guys together. Qin Feiyang smiled secretly at the five of them and strode into the cave abode. The five of them wanted to follow him in shamelessly. However, just as they reached the entrance, the stone door closed with a bang. The five of them were helpless. Do you guys believe him? The purple-robed young man asked. Believe what? The other four of them were suspicious. He will matchmake us together? The purple-robed young man said. As if we would believe him. It's obvious. Why wouldn't he do such a good thing himself and give it to us? The four of them sneered. What should we do then? Are we really going to help him collect the rent? The purple-robed young man frowned. Dream on. This isn't his territory. I'm not going. I want to see what he dares to do to me. That's right. Although he's the disciple of the Grand Hall Master, he can't be so unreasonable. However, we can join forces with others to suppress his arrogance. Good idea, let's go. The five of them left indignantly. In the cave abode. As soon as Qin Feiyang walked in, he realized that it was a completely different world. Yi Shuai's cave abode was several times bigger than his. It was also beautifully decorated. The floor was covered with white jade and there was not a speck of dust. There were also various ornaments carved from agate and jade hanging on the walls. There was even an independent living room, lounge, and cultivation room. There was also furniture. Qin Feiyang glanced at everything and shook his head. It's just a temporary residence. Is there a need for this? It was simply a waste of time to do all this. A woman's mind was indeed different from others. Don't use your man's mind to measure us women. Yi Shuai was wearing a snow-white dress and sitting on a chair carved from mahogany, looking at Qin Feiyang. She looked like an otherworldly fairy. All right. Why don't you cut the crap? Do you know about hell? Qin Feiyang sat opposite Yi Shuai casually and asked. Yi Shuai was stunned and asked suspiciously, why are you asking about this? Qin Feiyang smiled and said, isn't everyone talking about it now, so I'm curious. A few days ago, I've already asked Grandpa, but he didn't say anything. Instead, he told me not to ask around. And he also told me to tell you not to mess around and stay in the Dragon God Palace to cultivate. Yi Shuai said. Why? Qin Feiyang asked. Yi Shuai's words were completely out of his expectations. I don't know either. Yi Shuai shook her head and said, but since Grandpa said so, it must be for our own good. I admit that. But don't you think it's strange? There are so many people in the Dragon God Palace, why are we not allowed to ask around? Qin Feiyang frowned. Nonsense. We are the people closest to him. Yi Shuai said. The people closest to him? Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned and shook his head with a smile. You are the person closest to him, so I don't object. But I am just a disciple who has just become his disciple. Li Bu, I don't feel comfortable listening to your words. Is my grandpa not good to you? Although we have just known each other, be it great-grandpa or grandpa and the others, they all treat you as family. Yi Shui said angrily. What about you? What kind of person do you take me for? Qin Feiyang asked with a smile. Me? Younger brother. Don't tell me you want to be my elder brother. Yi Shui rolled her eyes. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, if you agree, I won't object. Dream on. Yi Shui looked at him in disdain. His hair was not even fully grown, and he wanted to be her elder brother. Did he have any shame? Chapter 25-44. Qin Feiyang smiled awkwardly and said, since we're all curious, why don't we ask your grandfather? Wait. Yi Shui quickly reached out and asked, when did I say that I was curious? Although you didn't say it, you must have it in your heart. Qin Feiyang smiled. Yi Shui rolled her eyes at Qin Feiyang and took out the image crystal. She looked at Qin Feiyang and said, just say that you want to know. Don't drag me into it. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded. Looking at Yi Shui, he was still very afraid of Yi Zhong. Buzz. The image crystal was activated. A moment later. Yi Zhong's shadow finally appeared. Grandfather. Yi Shui called out sweetly. Master. Qin Feiyang also stood up and bowed. Yi Zhong looked at the two and frowned. Why are you two together? Qin Feiyang was stunned and said suspiciously, Master, don't you know that Shui lives across from me? What? Yi Zhong was stunned and looked at Yi Shui angrily. Didn't you tell me that you were on the 10th island? This, Yi Shui glared at Qin Feiyang and smiled. Grandfather, please calm down. You little girl, you've learned how to lie. Yi Zhong glared at her. Grandfather. Isn't it because I'm new here? I'm unfamiliar with this place. If I really go to the 10th island, I won't even have someone to talk to. How lonely would that be? Yi Shui pouted and looked at Yi Zhong with grievance. You've learned how to quibble? Li Bu, you taught her. Yi Zhong looked at Qin Feiyang unkindly. What does this have to do with me? Qin Feiyang was extremely helpless. How could this be blamed on him? He was really shot even when he was lying down. Grandpa, when did you become so heartless? Can't you consider my feelings? Can't you bear to see me alone on the 10th island? Yi Shui looked at Yi Zhong pitifully. Yi Zhong's veins bulged. Instead, she was complaining about him. However, looking at Yi Shui's resentful eyes, he couldn't help but feel sorry for her. All right. This old man has no objection. But Li Bu, listen carefully. Yi Zhong sighed helplessly and looked at Qin Feiyang. Please speak. Qin Feiyang said. Since he had already been shot, he didn't care if he got shot again. You and Shui must maintain a pure friendship. The biggest restriction is that you are siblings. Yi Zhong said. Grandpa, what are you saying? Yi Shui was speechless. Qin Feiyang was also stunned. He chuckled and said, Don't worry, my relationship with your granddaughter will always be as pure as the water in the mountain spring. That's good. Yi Zhong nodded and looked at the two of them. Then tell me, why are you looking for me? Qin Feiyang glanced at Yi Shui and said with a smile, Sister Shui wants me to ask you, what's the situation in the Nether King's hell? Li Bu, Yi Shui immediately flew into a rage. Didn't he say not to bring her along? Now, he actually said that she wanted to ask. Wasn't he deliberately tricking her? Also, what the hell was Sister Shui? Did he really want to be her brother? Yi Zhong glared at Yi Shui and looked at Qin Feiyang. He said expressionlessly, "The Nether King's hell has nothing to do with you. Don't ask blindly. Master, even if you don't tell us now, we will find out sooner or later. There's no need to hide it from us." Qin Feiyang said. "What us? It's obviously you who wants to know. I told you not to bring me along. Why don't you understand?" Yi Shui grabbed the flesh on Qin Feiyang's waist and gritted her teeth. "It hurts. Let go." Qin Feiyang also grimaced in pain. Looking at the two of them staring at each other, Yi Zhong's old face was full of helplessness, and said, all right, both of you are not young anymore, but you are still like children." Yi Shui finally let go of the devil's claws and smiled at Yi Zhong. "This Nether King's hell is actually a treasure left by the dragon's dragon god for the dragons," Yi Zhong said. "Treasure?" Qin Feiyang and Yi Shui looked at each other, then looked at Yi Zhong curiously. Yi Zhong asked, "Do you know where the dragon's heaven-defying artifact came from?" The two of them shook their heads. "Wait." But Qin Feiyang suddenly quivered and asked, "They couldn't have gotten it from the Nether King's hell, right?" "That's right. The 10 ancestral dragons' heaven-defying artifacts were all found in the Nether King's hell. But now, it's all thanks to Qin Feiyang." Yi Zhong sighed. "It can't be. What kind of place is this? There are even heaven-defying artifacts?" Qin Feiyang and Yi Shui looked at each other. The Nether King's hell is also a secret of the dragons, so not many people know about it. And the Nether King's hell only opens once every 10,000 years. Although there are a lot of treasures hidden inside, it is also extremely dangerous. Even an imperishable realm expert like me will die if I'm not careful," Yi Zhong said. "So terrifying?" Qin Feiyang and Yi Shui were shocked. "Yes. Because in the Nether King's hell, you can't use heaven-defying artifacts or activate heaven-defying techniques. Even your cultivation level has to be suppressed to the 9 heavens realm," Yi Zhong said. "Then what if you use heaven-defying artifacts, activate heaven-defying techniques, or don't suppress your cultivation level?" Yi Shui asked. "There are rules and restrictions in the Nether King's hell. If you violate these rules, you will be killed by the power of the rules," Yi Zhong said. "In other words, when entering the Nether King's hell, your cultivation level can't exceed the 9 heavens realm?" Qin Feiyang said. "Yes." Yi Zhong nodded. "No wonder even you are so afraid." Qin Feiyang suddenly understood and said, "Then why did the dragons open such an important thing to the public this time?" "This is my suggestion," Yi Zhong said. "Your suggestion?" The two were stunned. "Yes. The purpose of this old man's actions is precisely to lure Qin Feiyang." Yi Zhong didn't hide and told the truth. Qin Feiyang's pupils shrank slightly. It turned out that this was a conspiracy against him. "So that's why you didn't let me and Shui inquire about it?" "Yes. Knowing that the Nether King's hell, with Qin Feiyang's character, even if he knows that it is dangerous, he will definitely take the risk. Because not only are there heaven-defying artifacts in the Nether King's hell, there are also heaven-defying techniques. There are even inheritances of the power of laws. When the dragons and Qin Feiyang meet, a fierce battle will be inevitable. If you go in, you might be affected. Of course. The Nether King's hell itself is very dangerous. You don't have to risk your lives for some external things. Cultivating in peace is the right way," Yi Zhong said. "There are even inheritances of the power of laws?" The shock in Qin Feiyang's heart could no longer be described with words. What kind of place was this? Yi Shui asked, "Then Grandpa, will you go to the Nether King's hell when the time comes?" "Of course Grandpa will go. Because this plan is what Grandpa came up with. This time, we must get rid of Qin Feiyang. If we let him grow like this, I'm afraid that even Grandpa won't be his opponent. Yi Zhong shook his head and said. Qin Feiyang furrowed his brows without leaving a trace. He said, Master, this disciple has something to say. You'll have to bear with it. Speak. Yi Zhong looked at Qin Feiyang. The one who has a grudge with Qin Feiyang is the dragons. Even if we want to get rid of Qin Feiyang, that's the dragon's business. What does it have to do with you? Why do you have to get involved? This is not good for you. What's more, Qin Feiyang has never targeted you before. Qin Feiyang said. Yi Zhong was silent. After a long time, he shook his head and smiled, saying, Let's work for our own masters. Originally, Qin Feiyang wanted to persuade Yi Zhong not to meddle in these affairs and live out his remaining years in peace. But now, it seemed almost impossible. This old man still has things to do. That's all. Don't bully Shui. Yi Zhong stared at Qin Feiyang and gave him a meaningful warning. Then, the shadow dissipated. Yi Shui also put away the image crystal and sighed, I really didn't expect that the Nether King's hell was actually a conspiracy. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. He looked at Yi Shui and asked, What do you think of what your grandfather has done? Grandpa has his own thoughts. As a junior, I have no right to interfere, nor am I qualified to judge. Yi Shui shook her head. Qin Feiyang nodded. Indeed. No matter who it was, they couldn't judge the most respected elder in their heart, especially his own grandfather. However, he had to make a choice. If he really couldn't persuade Yi Zhong, then he could only eliminate all future troubles. Yi Shui rolled her eyes and looked at Qin Feiyang maliciously, saying, You already know what you want to know. Now, it's time for me to settle the score with you. Settle what score with me? Qin Feiyang smiled embarrassedly as he retreated. What do you think? Yi Shui stared with her almond-shaped eyes. Seeing that the situation was not good, Qin Feiyang turned around and rushed to the stone door. He smashed the stone door with a punch and ran out. You even destroyed my cave. Stop right there. Yi Shui shouted angrily and chased after him. But when she chased after him and saw the scene outside, she was stunned. At this moment, Qin Feiyang also stopped in the air and looked in front of him in shock. There were no less than hundreds of people gathered in front of him. And above the valley, there was also a sea of people. Counting inside and out, there were at least 50 to 60,000 people. Moreover, the cultivation of these people were almost all at the Nine Heavens realm or the Great Perfection realm. The purple-clothed youth from before was also in front of the crowd. After everyone looked at Yi Shui, they all stared at Qin Feiyang, their eyes filled with anger. What's going on? Yi Shui's face was filled with confusion. Aren't you guys too polite? You actually came here personally to pay the rent. Alright then. 100,000 per person, hand it over. Qin Feiyang laughed out loud. Pay the rent? Yi Shui was startled, she looked at Qin Feiyang's back view suspiciously. What the hell was this kid doing now? You really dare to ask for it? Who do you think you are? The master of the Dragon God Palace? What qualifications do you have to collect rent? Don't think that just because you are the disciple of the Grand Hall Master, you can be lawless and do whatever you want. Let me tell you, no matter how high your status is, you still have to follow the rules. The group of people immediately began to suppress him. Chapter 25-45. Qin Feiyang was startled. He frowned and said, You're not here to pay the rent? Of course. You can tell from our faces that we're here to punish you, you bastard. I've never seen someone as shameless as you in my life. Pay the rent? No way. Some of them gritted their teeth while others roared furiously. Those ferocious gazes seemed as if they wanted nothing more than to skin Qin Feiyang alive. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and looked at the 5 young men in purple. What are you doing? Can't you even do such a simple thing? Humph. The 5 of them laughed coldly. Look at your faces. Are you the ones who teamed up with them to punish me? Qin Feiyang was stunned. You only realized now? It seems like you're not as smart as the rumors say. The 5 of them could not help but laugh. I see. Qin Feiyang nodded in realization. He glanced at everyone and said with a smile, don't say I didn't give you a chance. It's too late to pay the rent. Idiots. Everyone rolled their eyes at him. It seems like you really think I don't dare to beat you up. Qin Feiyang chuckled and transmitted his voice to Fire Lotus, girl, it's your turn. All right. A few moments later, Fire Lotus's laughter echoed in Qin Feiyang's mind. The smile on Qin Feiyang's face grew wider. He looked at the tens of thousands of people and said, I'll give you one last chance. In your dreams. We'll go find the Grand Hall Master and expose your evil deeds. Let's go. Immediately. The group of people flew toward the entrance of the square. Qin Feiyang grinned. With a thought, Fire Lotus appeared out of nowhere. She had disguised herself as an old woman. What are you doing? We're all geniuses of the 10th island. Even if you're the Grand Hall Master's disciple, you can't escape the blame for attacking us. The group of people turned pale when they saw Fire Lotus appear. They all shouted angrily. You call yourself a genius? You guys are really thick-skinned. Then let me see how powerful you so-called geniuses are. Qin Feiyang smiled mockingly. He turned his head to look at Huo Lian and said, beat him to death. Understood. Huo Lian nodded with a smile, and a monstrous divine aura erupted. He is for real. Run. The 5 youths in purple roared. The group of people hurriedly fled in all directions. Did they still have a chance to escape? Of course. Divine might rolled out, enveloping the entire area. The group of people was immediately imprisoned in the void. What? Whose aura? It's from Li. Li. Let to check it. That guy must be causing trouble again. Fire Lotus's aura alarmed everyone on the first island. They all rushed out of their caves and headed to the valley. Li Bu, you better not cross the line. A young man in black roared. Even though they were both at the perfect 9 heavens realm and the perfect 9 heavens realm and were only 1 or 2 steps away from the Fire Lotus realm, the gap between the 9 heavens realm and the imperishable realm was an uncrossable chasm. No one could break free from Fire Lotus's aura. Whoosh! However, before he could finish speaking, Huo Lian had already arrived in front of the black-clothed young man and slapped him. Ah! With a scream, half of the young man's face was smashed. Instantly. Everyone fell into a deep fear. This guy wasn't joking. He really wanted to beat them to death. Brotherly, this is a misunderstanding. Yes, we were just joking. We're actually here to pay the rent. Isn't it just 100,000 soul stones? I'll pay for a year. I'll pay for 2 years. I'll pay for 10 years. Don't do it. We can talk about it. They were all scared. However, Qin Feiyang wasn't going to do it. Previously, he had spoken calmly, but all of them were extremely arrogant. Now that they were beaten up, they were scared, and they were begging for mercy. How could it be so easy? They had to beat them up and collect the rent. Since they all liked to be arrogant, they would be arrogant to the end. Let's see who was more arrogant. Ah! Screams could be heard everywhere. Wherever Fire Lotus went, it was like a tornado. Everyone's faces were torn apart. Blood and flesh splattered everywhere. Damn! He's really causing trouble. Those people are all geniuses of the 10th island. They all have legendary divine weapons and legendary divine techniques. Whether it's in the Dragon God Palace or outside, they all have supreme positions. Li Bu is really brave. He actually beat up these people without restraint. What a joke. He's now the disciple of the Grand Hall Master. In terms of identity and status, who can compare with him in the Dragon God Palace? People who had rushed over from all directions were dumbfounded when they saw this scene. This guy's arrogance had reached the point of lawlessness. In less than 100 breaths, tens of thousands of people were lying in the void. Their bodies were dripping with blood and they were wailing. They all looked extremely miserable. The 5 young men in purple were naturally the focus of attention. They lay in the void like 5 pools of mud, motionless. Fire Lotus returned to Qin Feiyang's side. Well done. Qin Feiyang gave them a thumbs up and glanced at those people. He chuckled and said, "Then let's start paying the rent now." What? We still have to pay rent? The group of people looked at Qin Feiyang in shock. Nonsense. Since you're in my territory, you have to pay protection fees. No, it's rent. Qin Feiyang laughed. Bastard. He really thinks of this place as his own. The group of people roared in their hearts, but there was nothing they could do. Who's that? Qin Feiyang pointed at a man in white and said, "Just now, you said that you have to pay for 10 years. Let's start with you." The man in white's face turned green. That was just a temporary excuse. Did they really want him to hand it over? 100,000 a month. That's 1,200,000 a year. Then in 10 years, wouldn't that be 12 million? Although he was a genius of the 10th island, this amount was enough to bankrupt him. A man has to keep his word, right? How can a man who doesn't keep his word pick up girls? No one is interested in you. Qin Feiyang laughed. The man in white looked at Yi Shui, then at Qin Feiyang. He shook his head and said, "I won't stay here anymore, okay? I'll leave now. You come and go as you wish." How can it be so easy? You have to pay. We'll talk after you pay. Otherwise, as Qin Feiyang said this, he stared at the white-clothed man and smiled maliciously. The man in white trembled and nodded. Okay. I'll pay. Then, the man in white reluctantly walked to Qin Feiyang, took off his interspatial ring, and said, "All my assets are here. Give it to me." Qin Feiyang extended his hand and said with a smile, "Can you leave some for me?" The man in white looked at Qin Feiyang pitifully and said, "Why don't you pay for a year first?" "How can you do that?" "I'll tell you the truth. Yi Shui likes a man who keeps his word." Qin Feiyang glanced at Yi Shui behind him and chuckled. The man in white looked at Yi Shui. How could he be in the mood to think about Yi Shui? Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and said, "I'm talking to you nicely. You won't listen again, will you? I'll give it to you." The man in white's eyes trembled and he quickly handed the interspatial ring to Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang chuckled and grabbed the interspatial ring, but the man in white didn't let go. His face was full of unwillingness. Qin Feiyang glared at Fire Lotus and said, "Continue to beat him up." No. The man in white's body shook and he hurriedly let go. His expression also became dispirited. It wasn't easy for him to accumulate the treasures in the interspatial ring. Now, he was giving it away for nothing. Qin Feiyang held the interspatial ring and dripped blood on it to claim ownership. He checked it. There were about 8 million soul stones, billions of divine gems, some low-level divine arts, divine weapons, elixirs, and so on. Although it's less than 12 million soul stones, it's not bad. You can stay here in peace from now on. Okay, you'll be next door to Shui. Qin Feiyang chuckled. Next door? The man in white was stunned. If that was the case, it seemed to be a good thing. Li Buer, if he lives next door to Yi Shui, where will we live? The purple-clothed young man and the others had also recovered. When they heard Qin Feiyang's words, they immediately shouted. Because they were the ones who lived next door to Yi Shui. You? I asked you to collect rent, but you went to join forces with them to suppress me. Do you think you still have a chance? Qin Feiyang said indifferently. Hearing this, the 5 of them were angry but didn't dare to say anything. Line up, one by one, hurry up. 1 payment per year, no credit. Qin Feiyang shouted. I see. I thought something big had happened. Sex is like a knife on the head. This saying is true. Yes. If these people didn't covet Yi Shui, how would they end up like this? But then again, this Li Buer is really good at doing business. 100,000 soul stones per person per month. In the long run, these soul stones are enough for him to use for a lifetime. No. Didn't you hear him just now? 1 payment per year? In other words, each person has to pay 2 million soul stones now. Look at the 50 to 60,000 people here. How terrifying is this number when added up? The onlookers discussed animatedly. Yi Shui finally understood, and a row of black lines appeared on her forehead. This scoundrel brat actually used her to openly enclose the land and collect rent? Humph. I'll let you be happy first. Yi Shui secretly snorted. Although there were many people, it ended very quickly. Qin Feiyang was also overjoyed. Taking 50,000 people as an example, each person received 2 million soul stones, which added up to 60 billion. Earning 60 billion soul stones out of thin air, even he couldn't help but admire himself. This was too business-minded. The 50 to 60,000 people wailed in their hearts. What was the difference between this and bandits? Chapter 2546. Li Buer, where's my share? Right at this moment. Yi Shui slowly walked in front of Qin Feiyang, turned her head to look at Qin Feiyang, and asked with a standard smile. Qin Feiyang's expression stiffened, and he smiled awkwardly. You are Master's biological granddaughter, do you still care about this little bit of soul stones? Whether I care or not is one thing, whether I want it or not is another thing. Since you're using me to do business, I naturally have a share. Yi Shui said. Cough cough. Qin Feiyang coughed dryly and asked, then how do you think we should split it? 9 and 1. Yi Shui said. Sure. Qin Feiyang nodded without hesitation. Yi Shui shook her finger and said with a smile, you might have misunderstood. What I said was, I'll take 9 and you'll take 1. Qin Feiyang's body stiffened, and he said angrily, then I'll just give you all of it? This woman's appetite was really big. Yi Shui said, if you want to give all of it to me, I won't object. In your dreams. I'll take 9 and you'll take 1. After all, I'm the one who contributed to this matter. Qin Feiyang snorted coldly. No. Although you contributed, without me, would you have been able to get these soul stones? At most, I'll take another step back. I'll take 8 and you'll take 2. Yi Shui shook her head. Even if you're a woman, you have to be reasonable. I can take another step back. I'll take 7 and you'll take 3. This is my bottom line. Qin Feiyang said. Looking at this scene, the 50 to 60,000 people were infuriated. Taking their soul stones and bargaining in front of them, did he not consider how they would feel? How could a person be so shameless? What are you doing? Suddenly, an angry shout was heard. following closely. A white-clothed old man broke through the air like lightning. Not good. Qin Feiyang was shocked. He hurriedly sent the fire lotus to the ancient castle and put all the soul stones into the universe ring. Grand Hall Master, however, the others were overjoyed, as if they had seen a life-saving straw. Whoosh! Very soon. Yi Zhong landed in the air above the valley and looked at the people around him. He lowered his head to look at Qin Feiyang and said angrily, "What are you doing now?" "Nothing." Qin Feiyang shook his head. "Grand Hall Master, you must uphold justice for us. This Li Bu is like a bandit, openly robbing us of our soul stones. Look, he beat us up like this. Is there still any law?" The 50 to 60,000 people looked at Yi Zhong and complained. Yi Zhong's face was dark as he glared at Qin Feiyang and said angrily, "Can't you stop?" "Master. I'm innocent." Qin Feiyang lowered his head, feeling wronged. "You're still being wronged? Can you be more shameless? So many people saw it with their own eyes. How are you going to deny it?" The 50 to 60,000 people kept complaining. Qin Feiyang glanced at those people and looked at Yi Zhong. He sighed and said, "Master, there's something you don't know." Yi Zhong was so angry that he laughed and said, "Then tell me, why don't you have a reason to do this?" "Hey! Look, they're all from the 10th island, but why did they come to the first island?" Qin Feiyang said. Yi Zhong was slightly taken aback. He glanced at the 50 to 60,000 people suspiciously and said, "Yes, why did you come to the first island?" We, the 50 to 60,000 people, were a little guilty. Qin Feiyang said angrily, "Master, in fact, they're here to tease your granddaughter." "What?" Yi Zhong's eyes widened in anger. "Grand Hall Master, it's not what he said. Don't listen to his nonsense. Li Bu, do you have any shame? Not only did you rob us of our soul stones, but you're also making false accusations?" The group of people stared at Qin Feiyang angrily. "I should be the one asking you this. Do you have any shame? You even bullied a girl?" "Master. Shui is your granddaughter, so she's also my family. Shui was bullied by them, so I couldn't stand it. That's why I taught them a lesson. If Master still thinks that I've done wrong, then I'm willing to accept the punishment." Qin Feiyang lowered his head and said, "Oh my God. It's a pity that he didn't become an actor." Yi Shui rubbed her forehead. Even she was starting to believe it. Yi Zhong took a deep look at Qin Feiyang and asked Yi Shui, is that true?" Whoosh! Everyone present turned to look at Yi Shui in unison. Yi Shui glanced at the 50 to 60,000 people with a trace of disgust in her eyes. She looked at Yi Zhong and nodded. "Yes. Miss Shui, did we offend you? Why did you follow Li Bu, to frame us?" The 50 to 60,000 people immediately wailed. This was really like having to suffer in silence, unable to voice out the bitterness. As for Yi Zhong, he was furious. "Instead of cultivating on the 10th island, all of you came to the first island to cause trouble. Are you worthy of the resources that the Dragon God Palace gave you? Believe it or not, I'll kill all of you right now." Yi Zhong shouted. "Grand Hall Master, please spare us." The 50 to 60,000 people hurriedly knelt in the void. Yi Zhong shouted, "Go back immediately and reflect on your mistakes." "Yes." The group of people nodded and hurriedly flew to the 10th island as if they were fleeing for their lives. Their speed was extremely fast. They disappeared in the blink of an eye. Their hearts were even more bitter. They thought that Yi Zhong would uphold justice for them, but they didn't expect that they would still be the ones to suffer. They had already paid the rent, but they were still chased back. Wouldn't that mean that the soul stones were wasted? The gains did not make up for the losses. "Li Bu, you bastard, I won't let you off. countless people roared in their hearts. Yi Zhong glared at Qin Feiyang angrily and said to Yi Shui, Shui, you go to the 10th island too. Not going. Yi Shui shook her head. You, Yi Zhong frowned. Yi Shui tugged at Qin Feiyang's arm. What? Qin Feiyang turned to look at her. Help me tell them. Yi Shui transmitted her voice. Dream on. Qin Feiyang smiled secretly. He couldn't wait for Yi Shui to go to the 10th island. This way, no one would disturb him, and he wouldn't have to be on tenterhooks all day long under Yi Shui's nose. You're not going to help me, right? Then don't blame me for being ruthless. I'll tell Grandpa the truth now. Yi Shui thought to herself. Qin Feiyang's face stiffened, and he transmitted his voice, don't be too shameless. Likewise. Yi Shui smiled proudly. Qin Feiyang sighed helplessly, looked up at Yi Zhong, and said, Master, you've seen the behavior of those people before. Isn't letting Shui go to the 10th island the same as sending her to a wolf's den? Yes, yes, yes. Yi Shui nodded. Yi Zhong stared at Qin Feiyang with an extremely strange look. It was as if he was saying that this kid seemed to be more dangerous than those people. Qin Feiyang coughed dryly and said with a smile, Master, Shui is my sister. I'll definitely take good care of her. Don't worry. Sister? The corner of Yi Zhong's mouth twitched. It seems that Shui is older than you. Yi Shui also looked at Qin Feiyang unhappily. Qin Feiyang said, if you're really worried, then you can take Shui with you. That's not good. Grandpa is always busy. He doesn't have time to take care of me. Yi Shui looked at Qin Feiyang and said. No matter how busy Master is, he can't just leave you alone. After all, you're his biological granddaughter. Qin Feiyang smiled. My biological granddaughter doesn't seem to be that close to him. I don't have any freedom at all. Yi Shui said bitterly. Yi Zhong's face darkened, and he said angrily, Enough, enough. Stop singing the same tune. Who are you putting on a show for? Qin Feiyang and Li Buer smiled embarrassedly. Shui, I'll allow you to stay here, but you'd better listen to me. Cultivate well. Don't pick up the bad stuff instead of the good stuff. And you, Li Buer, if you lead Shui astray, I won't forgive you. Yi Zhong glared at the two of them, then turned around and left. It seems that your granddaughter doesn't need me to take care of her. She's a bad woman to begin with. Qin Feiyang muttered. What did you say? Yi Shui was stunned and immediately glared at Qin Feiyang coldly. Nothing, nothing. Qin Feiyang hurriedly waved his hands. Does this woman have clairvoyant ears? How could she hear that? Yi Shui snorted coldly and said, Although you helped me, I also helped you. We're even now. Yes, yes, yes. But I'm a little puzzled. Why are you speaking up for me? Qin Feiyang looked at her suspiciously. Those annoying flies have been bothering me all day. I've long wanted to chase them away. Yi Shui said. I see. In that case, I've also helped you solve a huge problem. In return, about the soul stone, Qin Feiyang smiled. Cut it out. I'll take another step back. 50-50. Yi Shui said. Only a fool would agree to that. Goodbye. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes and rushed into the cave abode without looking back. He had always been the one robbing others. No one could rob him. Li Bu, Yi Shui fiercely rushed towards Qin Feiyang's cave abode. Inside the cave abode. Hearing Yi Shui's voice, Qin Feiyang hurriedly called out Fire Lotus and said, Quick, set up a barrier. Fire Lotus shook her head and smiled. With a wave of her hand, a barrier appeared immediately. Yi Shui was caught off guard and crashed into the barrier. She was dizzy and embarrassed. Bastard! This made her even angrier. Shui, you're a lady of a noble family. How can you do this? Qin Feiyang walked to the entrance of the cave abode and looked at Yi Shui outside the barrier. He chuckled. Don't be so smug. Yi Shui gritted her teeth. In front of this bastard, no matter how good her temper was, she would still go crazy. So what if I'm smug? If you have the ability, come in. Qin Feiyang looked at her mockingly. Yi Shui was so angry that her whole body trembled. But suddenly, she took a deep breath and the anger on her face dissipated. She said with a smile, "You're right. I'm a lady of a noble family. It's not worthwhile to be angry with you." That's right. A lady should be like a lady. Don't be like a tigress all day. In the future, who would dare to marry you? Qin Feiyang laughed. Yi Shui's anger, which she had suppressed with great difficulty, rose up again. I'll endure it. Yi Shui's chest heaved up and down. She glared fiercely at Qin Feiyang, then turned around and returned to her cave abode without looking back. Chapter 2547. Qin Dage, have you ever thought about why Yi Shui insisted on staying on the first island? Is it really because she's not familiar with the place and is afraid of being alone? Huo Lian walked behind Qin Feiyang and asked as she looked at Yi Shui's back. What do you mean? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Don't you realize that Yi Shui seems to rely on you too much? Fire Lotus said. Really? Qin Feiyang scratched his head. He really didn't realize it. Your EQ is terrifyingly low. I finally understand why you and the mermaid princess spent so much time together. Looks like I'll have to teach you a lesson when I'm free. Fire Lotus shook her head. You're still single and you still want to teach me a lesson? Girl, let's talk about it after you get married. Qin Feiyang laughed. Qin Dage, Fire Lotus's cheeks flushed red as she stomped her feet angrily. If the big shots of the Ninth Heaven Palace saw this, they would definitely be dumbfounded. The Palace Lord of the Ninth Heaven Palace was stomping her feet like a little girl. Where was her dignity? All right, let's stop joking. Tell me, should I go to the Nether King's hell? Or not? Qin Feiyang waved his hand and looked at Fire Lotus seriously. Logically speaking, you shouldn't go. After all, this is a plot against you. But I know that you won't play by the rules. So, you don't have to ask me. Fire Lotus thought for a while and shook her head. I didn't expect you to know me so well. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. If I don't know you well, wouldn't I have wasted all these years by your side? Fire Lotus rolled her eyes and said, but you really have to think about this. Qin Feiyang nodded. He couldn't use his divine artifact or the 6-word divine art. Even Fire Lotus and the others couldn't help. It would be a headache if they were to face off against the dragons. Unless, oh, right. He would use the identity of Li Buer to enter the hell of the Nether King. This way, not only would he not encounter any danger, Yi Zhong and the dragons would even protect him. However, how could he convince Yi Zhong to agree to let him enter the hell of the King of Hell? Forget it. He would think about these questions after the hell of the Netherworld King opened. The most important thing right now was to quickly cultivate. After all, at that time, all of his trump cards would be useless. Therefore, the most important thing now was to increase his strength. He also needed to raise the level of the various deity arts. Not to mention other things, he needed to at least have some ability to protect himself. Enjoying a battle is the fastest way to improve a divine art, Qin Feiyang muttered. He turned to look at Fire Lotus and smiled. From now on, you'll be my sparring partner. Feel free to beat me up. Beat you up? Fire Lotus was taken aback. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. Fire Lotus raised the corner of her mouth and smiled. Then I won't be polite. Qin Feiyang looked at her in a daze. He could not help but have an uneasy premonition in his heart. Whoosh! Immediately after, the two disappeared and appeared in the Black Tortoise world. East. In a certain restaurant. Hua Yi sat at a table in the main hall. He was drinking wine while admiring the graceful dancers on the stage in the middle. He was extremely satisfied. Life should be like this. Play when you should, play when you should. Enjoy when you should. Unlike this Qin Feiyang, who only knows how to cultivate all day. What's the point of working himself to death? He chuckled inwardly. Tap tap. Not long after, a young man wearing a golden robe entered the restaurant and walked to the opposite side of Hua Yi. You're back so soon? Hua Yi was taken aback. That's right. This young man was the five-clawed golden dragon. Isn't it just investigating the whereabouts of Wu Baichuan? How difficult can it be? The five-clawed golden dragon rolled his eyes at Hua Yi. Looking at the few wine jars on the table, he frowned and said, You've been drinking here all this time? Hee hee. Hua Yi grinned. Are you here to help or to eat, drink, and have fun? The five-clawed golden dragon was very dissatisfied. Hua Yi said, Of course I'm here to help and have some fun while I'm at it. The five-clawed golden dragon looked at him with disdain. He picked up a wine jar and gulped it down. Look, the two of us are really like-minded. I don't know why you want to follow that idiot Qin Feiyang. You don't drink and don't know how to be carefree. You only know how to cultivate all day. Why don't you think about it again and follow me? I still have a lot of immortal wine here. Hua Yi looked at the five-clawed golden dragon. Immortal wine. The five-clawed golden dragon's eyes lit up. All these years in the Black Tortoise world, he had already tasted the taste of immortal wine from Hua Yi. It was a delightful experience. As long as you follow me, I guarantee that you'll have an endless supply of good wine. Hua Yi continued to tempt him. Last time I heard you say that this immortal wine was obtained from a place called Heaven Immortal Tower in the Eastern Tomb? The five-clawed golden dragon asked. Yes. Hua Yi nodded. Then why should I follow you? When the time comes, I'll go to the Heaven Immortal Tower and get a few hundred jars. The five-clawed golden dragon sneered. Then tell me, how are you going to get there? Hua Yi looked at him playfully. With my current relationship with young master, would he refuse to let me borrow his space-time gate? The five-clawed golden dragon said indifferently. Hua Yi's face darkened. Even if you borrow the space-time gate and go to the Heaven Immortal Tower, Miss Immortal might not give it to you. With money, are you afraid that you can't buy it? The five-clawed golden dragon had a look of disdain. You're still too naive. This is really not a problem that can be solved with money. Only when you reach a certain level of relationship will Miss Immortal sell it. Hua Yi smiled proudly. The five-clawed golden dragon frowned. Think about it carefully. Only by following me will you have the chance to eat good food and drink good wine. And if you follow Qin Feiyang, sooner or later you'll become like him, a block of wood. Then how boring would your life be? Let's not talk about it anymore. Qin Feiyang has a mission. I have to return to the north. You should also prepare to make a trip to the south to investigate the background of that young lord. Hua Yi transmitted his voice. In that case, young master is still worried about that young lord in the south? The five-clawed golden dragon thought. You understand Qin Feiyang's character? Everything has to be done without any mistakes. It's just that it's hard for us to run errands. Hua Yi shook his head. After drinking the last mouthful of wine, he said, "Remember to pay the bill." After saying that, he got up and walked outside. "Why should I pay the bill while you drink?" The five-clawed golden dragon glared at him angrily. "We're family, why are you so calculative? At most, you can go back and ask Qin Feiyang for reimbursement in the future." Hua Yi waved his hand without looking back. The five-clawed golden dragon couldn't help but feel angry. Why was he acting like a scoundrel? And these words were said through voice transmission, so no one in the restaurant heard it. North Region. Treasure Pavilion. A black-haired young man in his 20s slowly walked into the treasure pavilion. "Greetings, young master. Is there anything I can do for you?" A staff member greeted him with a very good attitude. "Take this young master to see your steward." The black-haired young man looked at the staff member with his nose in the air and said, May I ask if young master has made an appointment in advance?" The staff member asked cautiously. "What the hell? A small steward needs to make an appointment in advance?" The black-haired young man raised his eyebrows and his voice was particularly loud. The people around immediately looked at him. Which young master was this? How could he be so arrogant? The staff member was stunned and said, "I'm sorry, I can't take you to see the steward without an appointment." "Is that so? What if I insist on seeing him today?" The black-haired young man said. The staff member could not help but frown and said, "Are you here to pick a fight?" "Yes. I'm here to pick a fight. If you don't want to be implicated, quickly step aside." "Damn fat pig, get out here." The black-haired young man scanned the treasure pavilion and roared. "Damn fat pig? Is this person crazy? Who in Holy Dragon City doesn't know that the steward of the treasure pavilion hates people calling him a fat pig the most?" Everyone looked at each other. How bold of him. The staff member was also angry and shouted, "Men, throw him out." The 4 guards guarding the door immediately ran in. "Get lost!" The black-haired young man shouted coldly. The 4 guards immediately vomited blood and were forced to retreat. No way. They were forced to retreat with just a shout? You have to know that they are all powerhouses in the 9th heaven realm. Everyone was extremely shocked. Seeing this, the staff member also retreated in horror. "Damn fat pig, if you don't get out here, I'll tear down your treasure pavilion." The black-haired young man shouted domineeringly. "Tear down my treasure pavilion? I'd like to see if you have the ability to do so." Accompanied by a gloomy voice, the manager of the treasure pavilion dragged his fat body out. "You're finally willing to come out." The black-haired young man chuckled. "Didn't you say that you want to tear down my treasure pavilion? I'll give you the chance now. Tear it down." The treasure pavilion steward sneered. "Huh," the black-haired young man laughed and said, "Compared to tearing down the treasure pavilion, I have something more important to do." "Ren Xiaolan. Ren Xiaolan." The treasure pavilion steward was shocked. "He's here for Ren Xiaolan? In other words, he's here to seek justice for Ren Xiaolan? That's strange. I'm quite close to Ren Xiaolan. Why didn't I know that she knew such a rich young master?" The surrounding staff members also began to whisper among themselves. "You don't want to discuss this with me in front of so many people, do you?" The black-haired young man smiled playfully. The treasure pavilion steward's pupils constricted. Looking at the whispering staff members, he shouted, "Don't you have anything else to do?" When the staff members heard this, they immediately dispersed and began to get busy. The treasure pavilion steward glanced at the curious guests again. Looking at the black-haired young man, he said in a deep voice, "Follow me." After saying that, he turned and walked toward a room in front. The black-haired young man chuckled and then swaggered after him. Chapter 2548. Inside the room. The manager closed the door and looked at the young man in black with a gloomy expression. Who are you to Ren Xiaolan? You don't have to know who I am to her. As the manager of the treasure pavilion, how can you be so narrow-minded? What right does someone like you have to be in charge of the treasure pavilion? The young man in black sat on the chair and looked at the manager with a mocking expression. Don't be presumptuous. Ren Xiaolan was expelled from the treasure pavilion because she stole from the treasure pavilion. Speaking of which, she should be thanking me. That's because our treasure pavilion can't tolerate embezzlement. If I hadn't shown mercy, do you think she would have just been expelled from the treasure pavilion? Let me tell you, according to the treasure pavilion's rules, she should be executed on the spot. The manager sneered. Ha! The young man in black laughed and said, you keep saying that she stole from the treasure pavilion. Then let me ask you, did you find any stolen goods on her? Would you keep the stolen goods with you after stealing? If it were anyone else, they would have moved the stolen goods away immediately. Ren Xiaolan has already gotten a great deal this time. Not only did she keep her life, but she also swallowed a legendary artifact. Go back and tell her not to be greedy. Otherwise, the treasure pavilion won't let her off so easily. The manager said. You can still be so righteous after framing someone. I really admire you. The young man in black laughed. Framing someone? You need evidence to say that. Also, I have reason to suspect that you are her accomplice. You were the one who moved the lost legendary artifact away. The manager looked at the young man in black coldly. The young man in black was stunned. Not only did he frame Ren Xiaolan, but he also framed him. How could there be such a shameless person in the world? How could the chief pavilion master let such a person manage the treasure pavilion without worry? Wasn't he afraid that the treasure pavilion would be dragged into the fire pit by this person? I'll let bygones be bygones, but if you dare to continue looking for trouble, then don't blame the treasure pavilion for being rude. Please. The manager of the treasure pavilion said expressionlessly as he pointed at the door. You're still letting bygones be bygones? The black-clothed youth was truly speechless. He had finally seen what a truly despicable person was. A wisp of killing intent flashed in the manager's eyes when he saw the black-clothed young man sitting there motionlessly. He shouted, "Do you want me to make a move? Do it." The black-robed youth muttered as he sized up the manager of the treasure pavilion. This person's cultivation was not weak. Half-step imperishable realm. After all, it was the Holy Dragon City's treasure pavilion. The Holy Dragon City was one of the 3 most powerful cities in the north. If one's cultivation was weak, how could they solve their daily problems? Therefore, they definitely needed a powerhouse to oversee the situation. But if he thought that a half-step imperishable could be arrogant in front of him, then he was gravely mistaken. The treasure pavilion has lost a legendary divine artifact. This is definitely true. But Ren Xiaolan didn't take it, so who has this artifact? Damn fat pig, are you interested in my analysis? The black-clothed youth looked at the manager of the treasure pavilion mockingly. You're courting death. The manager of the treasure pavilion didn't hide the killing intent in his eyes. A wisp of pressure spread out. The black-clothed youth lay on the chair and tapped his fingers on the armrest. He smiled and said, "I advise you to keep your arrogance to yourself." Impudent. The manager of the treasure pavilion was furious. Who's the impudent one? The black-clothed youth's eyes turned cold. He suddenly stood up and a terrifying aura exploded. The entire treasure pavilion began to shake violently. What's going on? This aura, it seems to be an ultimate powerhouse. The people outside immediately panicked and looked at the closed door. The aura came from inside the room. Could it be that arrogant black-clothed youth from before? You, at this moment. The manager of the treasure pavilion also stared at the black-clothed youth in shock and disbelief. This seemingly unremarkable youth was actually an initial stage imperishable realm cultivator. How was this possible? Ren Xiaolan was just an ordinary person. How could she know such a terrifying ultimate powerhouse? Answer me, who's the impudent one? The black-clothed youth stared at the manager of the treasure pavilion, his eyes cold. Sorry. The manager of the treasure pavilion trembled and hurriedly spoke. He couldn't even speak clearly. The black-clothed youth said, "Can you listen to my analysis quietly now?" "Yes, yes, yes." The manager of the treasure pavilion nodded repeatedly. The black-clothed youth smiled in satisfaction and retracted his aura. He returned to his chair and said with a smile, "According to my investigation, Ren Xiaolan was framed by you, Dong." But at this moment, there was a knock on the door. "Lord Steward, are you all right?" A few guards stood outside the door, their faces filled with anxiety. The black-clothed youth immediately raised his eyebrows and walked toward the door unkindly. "I'm fine. Go do your own thing." Seeing this, the manager hurriedly shouted at the guards outside the door. "Yes." The guards looked at each other suspiciously. Then, they respectfully responded and turned to leave. The black-clothed youth's expression eased. He looked at the manager and continued, "If Ren Xiaolan was really framed by you, then this lost legendary artifact must be in your hands." The manager's pupils shrank, and he said angrily, "Don't slander me. Whether it's slander or not, we'll know later. If it was Ren Xiaolan who did it, then as you said, she would have moved this artifact away at the first opportunity. Because she has no status and no strength, she can't resist a body search. But you're different. As the manager of the treasure pavilion in Holy Dragon City, your status and power far surpass Ren Xiaolan. Other than the chief pavilion master, no one has the right and no one dares to search you. Moreover, because you're the manager of the treasure pavilion, even if the staff suspect you, they won't dare to tell the chief pavilion master. After all, they're all afraid of your revenge. Moreover, they're just ordinary staff and can't contact the chief pavilion master directly. So you don't have to worry about being exposed at all. Taking a step back, even if someone finds the chief pavilion master to report you, you have plenty of reasons to clear your name. Therefore, I'm guessing that this lost legendary artifact should still be with you." The black-clothed youth laughed. "Huh, that sounds reasonable. Unfortunately, this is only your side of the story." The manager of the treasure pavilion sneered. The black-clothed youth asked, "Then do you dare to give me your interspatial ring?" "Why wouldn't I dare?" Without another word, the manager of the treasure pavilion took off his interspatial ring and threw it to the black-clothed youth. "So straightforward?" The black-clothed youth caught the interspatial ring and looked at the manager of the treasure pavilion in shock. Could he be wrong? Had the manager of the treasure pavilion hidden this artifact? Don't waste time. Investigate. The manager of the treasure pavilion sat opposite the black-clothed youth with a cold smile. The black-clothed youth's eyes flickered. All of a sudden, a glint flashed across his eyes as he stood up abruptly and dashed to the manager of the treasure pavilion, grabbing him by the neck. "What are you doing?" The manager stared at him in shock and anger. The black-clothed youth remained silent and sent his divine will into the manager's body. At this moment, the manager of the treasure pavilion could not help but panic. The black-clothed youth also noticed this and was increasingly convinced that his guess was correct. This person had hidden the legendary divine weapon in his sea of chi or sea of consciousness. First of all, he checked the manager of the treasure pavilion's consciousness. There was nothing in it. However, the black-clothed youth's eyes lit up when he checked the manager's chi sea. Immediately after, a rectangular wooden box appeared. It was about a foot long and looked rather ordinary. "Give it to me." the manager of the treasure pavilion said angrily. The black-clothed youth grabbed the wooden box and retreated a few steps, looking at the manager mockingly. Weren't you acting like a gentleman earlier on? What are you so nervous about now? The manager of the treasure pavilion said in a deep voice, There's no treasure inside. Return it to me immediately. Won't we know if it's a treasure after we take a look? The black-clothed youth opened the wooden box right away, but his expression froze immediately. There was a spirit tablet inside the wooden box. It was the type of spirit tablet used to consecrate the dead. There were a few words engraved on it. Deceased Father Yongji Memorial Tablet. Why was it a spirit tablet? The black-clothed youth did not expect that to happen. The manager of the treasure pavilion seized the opportunity to snatch the wooden box and spirit tablet from the black-clothed youth and said angrily, You're disrespecting the dead. The black-clothed youth had an awkward expression. Before my deceased father died, I was too busy and could not fulfill my filial duties. Therefore, I've been carrying my deceased father's spirit tablet with me all these years. Even the chief pavilion master knows about this. But now, you're saying that there's stolen goods hidden inside. Tell me, what are your intentions? The manager of the treasure pavilion shouted sternly. I'm sorry. The black-clothed youth smiled embarrassedly. But suddenly, he looked at the hands of the manager of the treasure pavilion. The manager of the treasure pavilion grabbed the spirit tablet with one hand and the wooden box with the other. However, compared to the spirit tablet, the manager seemed to be more concerned about the wooden box. That was because the manager seemed to be grabbing the wooden box with even more force subconsciously, as though he was afraid that it would be snatched away again. That slight abnormality caused the black-clothed youth to be suspicious. Furthermore, he recalled the scene back then. The manager of the treasure pavilion seemed to have snatched the wooden box first before the spirit tablet. Logically speaking, a wooden box containing a spirit tablet should have no value at all. That was because the value was on the spirit tablet. If it was anyone else, the first thing they would snatch would definitely be the spirit tablet and not the wooden box. Not to mention the wooden box. Something's wrong. The black-clothed youth's eyes flashed. He suddenly attacked and snatched the wooden box from the manager's hands. The manager of the treasure pavilion was stunned and pounced on the black-clothed youth instinctively. Indeed, there's something wrong. The black-clothed youth sneered and kicked the manager of the treasure pavilion while exerting force in his fingers. The wooden box cracked open immediately. The black-clothed youth discovered a small secret compartment at the bottom of the wooden box. There seemed to be a small black object in the secret compartment. The black-clothed youth took it out and saw that it was a black interspatial ring. Chapter 2549. What's this? The black-robed young man threw away the broken wooden box and smiled at the manager of the treasure pavilion with the interspatial ring. Give it back to me. The manager of the treasure pavilion roared. Don't tell me that it contains your father's belongings as well. The black-robed young man looked at him playfully. The manager of the treasure pavilion was anxious. The black-robed young man released his spirit consciousness and erased the blood contract on the interspatial ring. He then dripped his blood to claim ownership of the ring and checked it. Damn! He wouldn't have known if he hadn't seen it, but when he did, he was shocked. Not only did the interspatial ring contain a large number of soul stones, elixirs, divine weapons, divine arts and hundreds of interspatial bags. The black-robed young man released his spirit consciousness and checked them one by one. The hundreds of interspatial bags were filled with soul stones and divine crystals. Divine crystals aside, there were soul stones. There were at least hundreds of billions. This was a frightening number. At the same time, the round body of the manager collapsed powerlessly and his face was filled with fear. The spirit tablet in his hands fell to the ground as well. Soon. The black-robed young man took out dozens of long metal boxes. Each metal box was at least a meter long. The black-robed young man glanced at the manager of the treasure pavilion and opened all the metal boxes. Immediately, divine weapons appeared one after another. There were sabers, spears, clubs and rods. After checking, the black-robed young man discovered that there were 5 legendary divine weapons and the rest were peak divine weapons. Not simple. A mere manager actually hid such a large amount of treasures? The black-robed young man looked at the manager of the treasure pavilion in shock. The manager of the treasure pavilion looked up at the black-robed young man with unprecedented panic in his eyes. I don't think anyone would believe that this is your father's belongings. The black-robed young man waved his hand and put away all the metal boxes with a playful smile. The manager of the treasure pavilion was stunned. However, I have to admit that you're indeed smart to use your father's spirit tablet as a cover. I believe that even the chief pavilion master would not expect such a large amount of treasures to be hidden under the spirit tablet. However, what do you think will happen if I tell your chief pavilion master about this? The black-robed young man chuckled. Sir, please have mercy. Please, I'll do whatever you want me to do. The manager of the treasure pavilion shuddered and hurriedly knelt in front of the black-clothed young man and begged. Are you admitting it? The black-clothed youth said with a smile. Yes. I framed Ren Xiaolan. The lost legendary artifact is one of the 5 legendary artifacts. The manager of the treasure pavilion nodded. Just as Li Bu expected. As the manager of the treasure pavilion, you actually framed your subordinate for such a small matter. You're really something. The black-clothed youth sneered. What? Li Bu The manager of the treasure pavilion was bewildered. That's right. I was asked by Li Bu to investigate this matter. Do you know why Li Bu made things difficult for you? If he knew, why would he trade with Ren Xiaolan, an ordinary staff member, but not with you, the manager of the treasure hall? The black-clothed youth said indifferently. Why? The supervisor of the treasure pavilion was puzzled. Because he didn't really leave after talking to you about the pill fire. So, he heard everything you said to Ren Xiaolan. The 5-clawed golden dragon deliberately destroyed the treasure pavilion because of this. You think you're smart, but you don't know that in front of Li Bu you're just a clown. The black-clothed youth's face was full of disdain. That's right. This black-clothed youth was Hua Yi in disguise. The manager of the treasure pavilion could not help but mock himself when he heard Hua Yi's words. It turned out that Li Bu was deliberately targeting him back then. To think that he thought that everything was still under his control. What a joke. Hua Yi put away the universe ring and said with a smile, Come, let's talk about the solution. The manager of the treasure pavilion lowered his head, not daring to say a word. Hua Yi said, Get up first. The manager of the treasure pavilion stood up and looked at Hua Yi fearfully. Actually, Ren Xiaolan's request is very simple. She doesn't want to return to work in the treasure pavilion. She only wants you to apologize to her in public and prove her innocence. Hua Yi said indifferently. This, the manager of the treasure pavilion could not help but panic. Hua Yi said, Do you need my advice? Please tell me. The manager of the treasure pavilion hurriedly said. If you tell the truth, I believe that not only will you be reviled by the world, but your life will also be in danger. But if you don't tell the truth, Ren Xiaolan will bear the infamy of embezzlement for the rest of her life. This is unfair to her. So, I thought of a compromise. Call Ren Xiaolan over and apologize to her in public. Then tell everyone that the divine artifact was not lost. It was your mistake to wrongly accuse Ren Xiaolan. This way, not only can you give Ren Xiaolan an explanation, but you can also save your life. As for the so-called mistake, I believe that as long as you have a good attitude, the chief pavilion master and everyone else will not pursue it. Hua Yi smiled. The manager of the treasure pavilion was moved. This method was indeed the best of both worlds. But why would this person help him? There must be a condition for helping you. The alchemy fire and alchemy furnace that Li Bu asked for, you must give it to us for free. Hua Yi said. This, the manager of the treasure pavilion was stunned. He hurriedly shook his head and said, this won't do. Alchemy fire and alchemy furnace are extremely precious things. You can see that I have embezzled those treasures. Even if I embezzled a legendary divine artifact, I wouldn't dare to embezzle an alchemy fire. This is your business. If you don't cooperate, I will announce your corruption and embezzlement to the public right now. Hua Yi said. The manager of the treasure pavilion paled. Actually, this is not difficult for you. As long as you do the accounts well, even the chief pavilion master may not be able to find out. Besides, I believe the chief pavilion master won't check the accounts for no reason. Otherwise, you wouldn't dare to embezzle so many treasures. Hua Yi said indifferently. Huff. The manager of the treasure pavilion took a deep breath and nodded. Okay, I promise you. That's right. Don't play tricks. I have recorded everything you said just now. Hua Yi took out an image crystal from his arms. The image crystal was in a state of recovery. You, the manager of the treasure pavilion, stared at Hua Yi angrily. What? You have a problem? Hua Yi turned off the image crystal and looked at him unkindly. No, no. I will definitely cooperate with you. The manager of the treasure pavilion hurriedly waved his hand. Ha! Hua Yi laughed and opened an altar. He jumped up and said, in 3 days, I will let Li Bu come to you personally to get the alchemy fire and alchemy furnace. After saying that, his figure quickly dissipated. The manager of the treasure pavilion also collapsed on the chair. Not only did he lose such a large amount of treasures, but he also had to take the risk to get the alchemy fire and alchemy furnace. It was really a loss. Stupid, really stupid. Why did he have to act smart and target Li Bu? Sigh. He sighed helplessly, got up and walked out of the room. He looked at a few staff members not far away and said, you guys, if anyone knows Ren Xiaolan, tell her to come to the treasure pavilion immediately. They were stunned. One of the women took out an image crystal and sent a message to Ren Xiaolan. When Ren Xiaolan received the message, she was still a little confused. Why did the manager ask her to go to the treasure pavilion? Could it be that Li Bu had already helped her settle this matter? But it shouldn't be so fast. She came to the treasure pavilion with a nervous heart. When the manager of the treasure pavilion saw her, he immediately apologized to her in front of everyone. And as Hua Yi said, he publicly announced that it was his mistake. He sincerely invited Ren Xiaolan to continue working at the treasure pavilion. When Ren Xiaolan heard the manager's words, she was a little dissatisfied. He was obviously deliberately framing her, but in the end, he said it was a mistake. However, she was also a smart person. If the manager of the treasure pavilion said so, it must have something to do with Qin Feiyang. And it was already very good that Qin Feiyang could help her to this extent. One must know how to be tactful. If she took an inch and wanted a mile, she was afraid that it would arouse the other party's disgust. In short, since her innocence had been cleared, there was no need to delve into the secrets hidden in it. This was not something that a small person like her should care about. At the same time, Hua Yi and Qin Feiyang were also using the image crystal to communicate. But at this moment, Qin Feiyang was extremely embarrassed. His body was covered with wounds and dripping with blood. Fire Lotus was also standing beside Qin Feiyang with a smile on her face. Qin Feiyang's injuries were naturally caused by Fire Lotus. Of course, this was also Qin Feiyang's own fault. This was because he had asked Huo Lian not to hold back when she was sparring with him. Hua Yi looked at Qin Feiyang at this moment and couldn't help but find it funny. He asked, "Is it okay for me to deal with it like this? You've already dealt with it, why are you still asking me?" Qin Feiyang was speechless. "I want to hear your opinion," Hua Yi said. "You want to hear the truth?" Qin Feiyang thought for a moment and asked. "Nonsense." Hua Yi rolled his eyes at him. This way, Qin Feiyang pretended to ponder for a while and said with a smile, "It's perfect." Hua Yi immediately laughed proudly. "You don't say, this steward is really brave. He actually coveted so much." Qin Feiyang even admired this person's courage. "Yes. I was shocked as well." Hua Yi nodded and asked, "Then what should we do with these treasures?" "Soul stones, divine crystals, pills, the Black Tortoise realm doesn't lack them. Just give them to Fan Yunzhang. Let him distribute them to everyone. As for the divine artifacts and divine arts, you keep them first. When the time comes, give them to Fire Lotus and put them in the divine treasury." Qin Feiyang thought for a moment and said, "You're willing to part with hundreds of billions of soul stones?" Hua Yi was speechless. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and said, "For the current us, hundreds of billions of soul stones is just a number. This is really different from when we were in the northern region. Rich and overbearing. Okay. I'll go find Fan Yunzhang now. I'll also go to Black Rock City to have fun. 3 days later, don't forget to get the pill fire and furnace." Hua Yi said. "Okay." Qin Feiyang nodded. Hua Yi's gaze turned and looked at Fire Lotus next to Qin Feiyang and said with a smile, "Continue to beat him up. Beat him up ruthlessly. Don't be polite. He's asking for it anyway." Fire Lotus looked at the miserable Qin Feiyang and covered her mouth to laugh. Scram. Qin Feiyang glared at Hua Yi and turned off the image crystal. "Qin Dage, let's continue." Fire Lotus looked at Qin Feiyang and laughed. "Come on, I'm not afraid of you." Qin Feiyang put away the image crystal and attacked Fire Lotus with all his might. Fire Lotus was really merciless. With a slap, she sent Qin Feiyang flying, blood spurting out. Again. Qin Feiyang shouted. All kinds of divine arts appeared. Although he was covered in wounds, his aura did not lose to Fire Lotus at all. Chapter 2550. Breaking news, breaking news. News just came out that there is a heaven-defying artifact and a heaven-defying art in this hell. What? There is such a divine object? As the days passed, the news about hell spread more and more fiercely in Divine Prefecture. And the person behind all this was naturally Yi Zhong. Yi Zhong seemed to want to whet people's appetite. Every once in a while, he would let people spread a little bit of news. Another piece of news came out. The heaven-defying artifact of the 10 great dragons was obtained in hell. That means, the previous news is not false. This hell really has a heaven-defying art and a heaven-defying artifact. People were extremely excited. The heaven-defying artifact of the ancestral dragon was obtained in hell. One could imagine how many divine objects there were in hell. Shocking news, shocking news. It is said that there is an inheritance of the power of law in hell. No way. There is even an inheritance of the power of law. What exactly is this place? Can we go in? What are the restrictions? Releasing the news bit by bit really whetted everyone's appetite. Similarly, everyone's heart was full of yearning. For half a year. Under Yi Zhong's control, the basic situation of hell was finally exposed. Everyone also finally knew that there was a dragon god hidden among the dragons. And this hell was the treasure left by the dragon god for the dragons. They didn't know how strong this dragon god was. But they knew that since hell was left by the dragon god, its strength must be far beyond that of the dragon sovereign. It was estimated that even a heaven-defying artifact was nothing in the eyes of the dragon god. So, they were more eager for this hell left by the dragon god. But there were also some people who were slightly more rational who were thinking about a question. Since it was a treasure specially left for the dragons, why did the dragons open it to the public this time? When did the dragons become so generous? Was there any conspiracy in this? The dragons have released news that they have finally confirmed the opening time of the Underworld King's Hell. When will it open? 2 years later. Located in the plains of the Dragon God mountain range. Furthermore, no matter who it is, no matter what their cultivation is, they can enter the hell of the King of Hell. What about the people in the west, south, and east? You can go in too. There are no restrictions. Then hurry up and get ready. I must go in and take a look. If I'm lucky enough to get a heaven-defying divine artifact, then I'll be rich in the future. Each and every one of them was rubbing their palms, looking forward to that day. Some time passed. The rules of hell were also made public. People became even more excited. Because this was a good thing for them. Take Qin Feiyang for example. If he could use the heaven-defying divine artifact and the heaven-defying divine art, who would dare to compete with him in hell? But things were different now. In the hell of the underworld, it was forbidden to use these powerful divine objects. One could only rely on one's own cultivation and ability. This way, when facing Qin Feiyang, they would have a certain degree of ability to counterattack. As such, the rules of hell of the underworld were tantamount to bad news for people like Qin Feiyang. But for ordinary people, it was great news. Such a great effort to create momentum. It seems that the dragons are determined to destroy our Dragon Slayer Palace this time. Somewhere. 4 figures stood against the wind. The aura of the 4 of them was extremely powerful. Destroy our Dragon Slayer Palace? You think too much. Our Dragon Slayer Palace is not worth the dragons doing this. The dragons' plan this time is obviously aimed at Qin Feiyang. One of them said lightly. This was the voice of a man, but his entire body was shrouded in flames and it was difficult to see his face clearly. Qin Feiyang, this kid is indeed powerful. The dragons have suffered great losses in his hands over the years. But he is just a kid after all. Is it worth it for the dragons to do this? Also, from what you said, why do I feel that this Qin Feiyang is more powerful than our Dragon Slayer Palace? This time, it was a woman who spoke. She was also surrounded by a layer of mist, and her entire person seemed a little hazy. Supreme Cloud, although you don't want to accept it, this is the truth. For the dragons, Qin Feiyang's threat has far surpassed our Dragon Slayer Palace. You should also stop looking at Qin Feiyang with that sort of disdainful gaze. Although he is just a junior, the foundation he has now is not much worse than ours. The Sunset Divine Bow and the other 10 heaven-defying treasures are the best proof. The man who was surrounded by flames said. The Sunset Divine Bow, the woman called Supreme Cloud muttered to herself. Suddenly, she looked at the other 2 and said, Qin Batian, Lu Zhengyang, both of you are Qin Feiyang's ancestors. Why don't you let Qin Feiyang give the Sunset Divine Bow and the other divine weapons to our Dragon Slayer Palace? The 2 of them looked at each other. Qin Batian said, Supreme Cloud, please answer me first. Why should we do this? Because Qin Feiyang is also a member of our Dragon Slayer Palace. He has an obligation to give the 10 heaven-defying treasures to us. Supreme Cloud said. I don't agree with that. First of all, he obtained the 10 heaven-defying treasures with his own ability and risked his life. We ignored it and forced him to hand them over. Secondly, although he has been conferred the title of Young Supreme Lord, he is still not a member of our Dragon Slayer Palace. Because he hasn't officially joined the Dragon Slayer Palace. Qin Badian said. Supreme Cloud immediately said angrily, you are obviously siding with him. Siding with him? That's a little funny. Did you help Qin Feiyang when he was fighting for the 10 heaven-defying treasures? As for the obligation you mentioned, that's even more ridiculous. He obtained the heaven-defying treasures with his own ability. What obligation does he have to give them to you? If you want to talk about siding with him, it's you guys. Wu Baichuan and Du Yuntian crossed the border to the north and tried to harm Qin Feiyang. Why didn't you guys say anything about this? Just pretend you don't know. What's the point of this? Lu Zhengyang said coldly. Humph. Aren't you guys just thinking about yourselves after saying so much? Qin Feiyang is your descendant. The stronger Qin Feiyang's background is, the more advantageous it is for you guys. Supreme Cloud snorted. Du Yuntian and Wu Baichuan are indeed in the wrong, but this is just a conflict between the younger generation. There's no need to make a big fuss over nothing. The man in flames said. Making a big fuss over nothing? From what you're saying, if Qin Feiyang were to kill the two of them, you wouldn't interfere? Lu Zhengyang said. The man in flames said, Lu Zhengyang, you are being unreasonable. How can a small conflict be compared to life and death? Small conflict? So, in your eyes, killing someone is just a small conflict. It seems that I have misunderstood the term small conflict before. Lu Zhengyang smiled coldly. That's enough. I didn't call you here today to argue about this. Let's discuss whether we should go to the Nether King's Hell or not. Qin Badian said. It's a rare opportunity. Of course we have to go. Not only us, but everyone in the dragon-slaying temple has to go. The woman said without hesitation. I object. Although the dragons are targeting Qin Feiyang this time, they won't miss the chance to get rid of us if they can. Lu Zhengyang said. The woman said, so, according to you, we just watch? Yes. Watch. While strengthening our strength, we wait for Qin Feiyang to rise. Lu Zhengyang nodded. I didn't expect that you, Lu Zhengyang, would pin your hopes on a junior. What a joke. The woman laughed unscrupulously. Then take it as a joke. After Lu Zhengyang finished speaking, he fell silent. The man in flames pondered for a while and said, actually, I think we should go, but not all of us, because Lu Zhengyang's concerns are not wrong. After the man in flames finished speaking, he looked at Qin Feiyang and said, what do you think? Qin Badian said, I agree with Lu Zhengyang. The woman said in an overbearing manner, then why did you call us here? I don't have the final say in the dragon-slaying temple. I have to discuss it with you. Qin Badian said. Who doesn't know that you are in cahoots with Lu Zhengyang? Do you still need to discuss it with us? The woman sneered. Then we might as well do this. Then we will do as we have decided. If you want to go, we won't stop you. If we don't want to go, don't force us. Don't quarrel. It's troublesome. Lu Zhengyang said lightly. All right. The woman nodded. Lu Zhengyang looked at the man in flames and asked, what about you? Since Supreme Cloud has agreed, I won't waste any more time. All right, let's do our own thing. The man in flames nodded. Qin Badian looked at the three of them and said, I don't object, but there is one thing I want to make clear. Although we do our own thing, we must not harm the interests of the dragon-slaying temple. Otherwise, don't blame me, Qin Badian, for being ruthless. Afraid of you? The woman sneered and turned to leave. Qin Badian, in terms of seniority, you are still the junior of Supreme Cloud and don't be too arrogant. The man in flames looked at Qin Badian and said. Then, he turned and flew into the sky. Lu Zhengyang retracted his gaze and looked at Qin Badian. He sighed and said, Badian, these two people are getting more and more prejudiced against us. It's all because of Qin Feiyang. The Sunset Divine Bow and other divine artifacts have fallen into the hands of this kid, and the resources he looted from the major cities in the north, especially the power of the kill tactic. How can they not be jealous? Qin Badian smiled bitterly. Lu Zhengyang's eyelids twitched. He said in surprise, then, will they? Don't worry about that. Although they are jealous, they don't dare to deal with Qin Feiyang personally. They will only ask their subordinates to make things difficult for him. But do you believe that their subordinates can pose a threat to this kid? Qin Badian said with a smile. Huh, Lu Zhengyang laughed. I'm just worried that this kid won't listen to our advice and sneak into the Nether King's hell. Qin Badian sighed. There's nothing we can do about it, is there? Lu Zhengyang smiled. Sigh. Why is he so worrisome? Qin Badian shook his head and sighed. Why don't you talk to him personally? You can also meet him. After all, the two of you haven't really met. All right. I'll try. Lu Zhengyang pondered for a moment and nodded with a smile. Chapter 2551. 3 days later. The Black Tortoise Realm. The Devil's Land, at the top of the clouds. Qin Feiyang was covered in blood, but his eyes were extremely cold. With a thought, the 3 moves of the Dragon God art, the 4 moves of the Fire Phoenix art, the Bright King Golden Body, the Soul Extinguishing art, the Fire Thunder Divine art, and the Divine Armor all appeared. Streaks of destructive aura surged out like a volcanic eruption. These auras had surpassed the legendary deity arts. Opposite. Fire Lotus was also aggressive. But at this moment, there was a smile on her face. A total of half a year and 3 days had passed since Qin Feiyang came to the Black Tortoise Realm. A day outside was 100 years in the Black Tortoise Realm. In other words, 18,300 years had passed in the Black Tortoise Realm. For an entire 18,300 years, it was as if Qin Feiyang had been possessed by the devil. Every day, he would drag her to spar with him, and he would bleed almost every moment. Although he paid a lot, the harvest was also very amazing. Just like now, these 6 deity arts had all been upgraded to the supreme deity arts. Girl, take this. Qin Feiyang roared. The 6 deity arts shook the sky and attacked Fire Lotus. If you were a half-step invincible realm expert like me, I might not be your opponent. But now, Huo Lian's red lips curled up slightly. She pointed a finger in the air and the 6 supreme-grade divine arts all disintegrated. Qin Feiyang's mouth was full of blood, and he looked helpless. The gap in cultivation was indeed impossible to make up. How is it? Huo Lian giggled. Don't be too proud. If you have the ability, then suppress your cultivation to the same level as mine. Qin Feiyang pursed his lips. Okay. Fire Lotus nodded and directly suppressed her cultivation to the lesser immortal realm. Huh, girl, you look down on me too much. You really dare to suppress your cultivation. 3,000 incarnations, open. Qin Feiyang roared. In an instant, 3,000 incarnations appeared behind him. That's right. Now, even the 3,000 incarnations had been upgraded to perfection, and he could summon 3,000 incarnations. Seeing this, Fire Lotus's pupils shrank. Unleash your full aura. Qin Feiyang threw his head back and roared. The various divine arts once again appeared in the world. Furthermore, he had also activated the Sinkhole art, Guiyuan sword art, and Eclipse moon. These 3 divine arts had also been raised to the legendary level. Kill! Qin Feiyang roared and took a step forward. Accompanied by a series of dragon roars, a large part of the sky collapsed. Heavenly Dragon's 9 Steps. This was a legendary grade divine art that combined both killing and support. However, at this moment, the Heavenly Dragon's 9 Steps had also been upgraded to the Sovereign grade. Divine Dragon Technique, Fire Phoenix Technique, Soul Extinguishing Technique, Bright King's Golden Body, Fire Lightning Divine Technique, Divine Armor, and Heavenly Dragon's 9 Steps. In other words, Qin Feiyang now possessed 8 supreme-level divine arts. No. There was also the Qilin art. The Qilin art itself was a paragon-level deity art. In other words, currently, he had mastered a total of 9 supreme-level divine arts. Qin Dage, you're cheating. Fire Lotus decisively released the suppression of her cultivation, and her divine power surged out. Boom! Crack! Accompanied by a series of earth-shaking sounds, all of Qin Feiyang's divine arts were instantly annihilated. And at the same time, Qin Feiyang was sent flying, blood spurting out non-stop. Qin Feiyang stabilized his body, his face pale. He looked at Fire Lotus helplessly, and said, "You're the one who's cheating. There's nothing I can do about it. Who asked you to activate 3,000 incarnations?" Fire Lotus giggled. Qin Feiyang was speechless, and shouted, again. Don't. Fire Lotus hurriedly waved her hand. What? Qin Feiyang looked at her suspiciously. I've trained with you for 18,300 years. You're not tired, but I'm tired. We'll talk about it later. It's been so long, why haven't you gone to the treasure pavilion? Fire Lotus said. Yeah. Hua Yi asked me to go to the treasure pavilion to get the pill fire and pill furnace, I forgot. Qin Feiyang slapped his head. The divine dragon art and other divine arts have all been upgraded to supreme level. Even the return to ruins art, eclipse moon, and Gui Yuan sword art have all been upgraded to legendary level. That's about it. You should also go into seclusion to cultivate and improve your cultivation. Fire Lotus said. It's all because of you, Master, you taught me well. Qin Feiyang smiled. How would I dare to be your master? Fire Lotus shook her head. 18,000 years was a long time, but if it was someone else, they probably wouldn't even be able to upgrade one supreme-level divine art. Yet, this person had managed to raise 7 deity incantations to the utmost exalted level. Such talent was no longer as simple as opening the door of potential. It was probably because he was born with extraordinary talent. Qin Feiyang said, then I'll go wash up. You also go and have a good rest. Okay. Fire Lotus nodded. Qin Feiyang put away his 3,000 incarnations and landed in the courtyard in a flash. Treasure Pavilion. A young man in a black robe with a bruised face walked into the treasure pavilion. Young Masterly. Ren Xiaolan went up to greet him. When she saw the young man, she was stunned. That's right. This person was Qin Feiyang. As for his bruised face, it was naturally beaten up by Fire Lotus. Although the blood on his body had been washed clean, the bruises and scars would not disappear for a while. Long time no see. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Not long, just half a year. Ren Xiaolan smiled and asked suspiciously, what's wrong with you? I've been training all this time, so I became like this. Qin Feiyang smiled and asked, where's your steward? The steward is looking at the account book. Shall I take you to him? Ren Xiaolan asked. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded. Ren Xiaolan led Qin Feiyang inside. When they walked in front of a door, Ren Xiaolan turned to Qin Feiyang and whispered, young master, I haven't thanked you in person. It's a small matter. Qin Feiyang waved his hand. It's a small matter to you, but to me, it's a lifetime of innocence. Ren Xiaolan said. Qin Feiyang smiled and asked, is the steward making things difficult for you now? No. Not only did he not make things difficult for me, but he's also quite polite to me. Some time ago, he even talked to me and asked me to be his assistant. Ren Xiaolan said. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, that's a good thing. But I didn't agree. Ren Xiaolan shook her head. Why? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. If she became the steward's assistant, Ren Xiaolan's status in the treasure pavilion would be second only to the steward. How could she refuse such a good thing? I don't like him. And I don't want to rely on connections. I want to rely on my own efforts. Ren Xiaolan said. Qin Feiyang was stunned and praised, not bad. There aren't many people in this world who are as principled as you. Young master, you're too kind. Ren Xiaolan shook her head and turned to knock on the door, saying, Steward, Li Bu, requests to see you. What? In the room. When the steward, who was sitting at the desk, heard Ren Xiaolan's words, he immediately got up and opened the door to welcome him. Brotherly, we're honored by your presence. Please forgive me for not going out to meet you. Please come in. That warmth was as if he had seen his ancestor. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and walked into the room. The steward looked at Qin Feiyang's back and smiled at Ren Xiaolan. Xiaolan, go do your work. Yes. Ren Xiaolan nodded and turned to leave. The steward closed the door and said with a smile, Brotherly, please take a seat. The two walked to the tea table and sat opposite each other. The steward made tea and said with a smile, We haven't seen each other for more than half a year. Brotherly, you're still so energetic. Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched and said, You don't want to see me, do you? The steward's expression froze and he quickly waved his hand, saying, No, I've been looking forward to your arrival every day. But he was muttering in his heart. Did this person have discerning eyes? He could even see that. Qin Feiyang chuckled and asked, Half a year ago, my friend asked you to prepare the alchemy fire and alchemy furnace. How's the preparation going? What should come will come in the end. The treasure hall steward sighed secretly and said with a flattering smile, It's been prepared long ago, but I don't understand. Your friend said that he would come to pick it up in 3 days. Why did you only come after half a year? I was delayed by something. Give it to me. Qin Feiyang smiled. Okay. The treasure hall steward nodded and took out a long wooden box from his qi. He then took out a spirit tablet with a secret compartment hidden at the bottom. Inside the secret compartment was an interspatial ring. This is the box you hid your things in? Qin Feiyang looked at the wooden box curiously. Hua Yi had told him about it at the time, and he found it hard to believe. In this world, how could someone use their late father's spirit tablet as a cover? But he didn't expect it to be true. The steward smiled and took out the interspatial ring from the secret compartment. Then, he took out 6 square iron boxes and a cauldron-shaped alchemy furnace from the interspatial ring. The alchemy furnace was crimson red, with 3 legs and 2 handles. It was engraved with fiery clouds, shining brightly in all directions. The steward smiled and said, This is a 6th-grade divine alchemy furnace, the fire cloud furnace. Qin Feiyang looked carefully and nodded in satisfaction. It was indeed a 6th-grade divine alchemy furnace. The steward pointed to the 6 iron boxes and said, Inside these iron boxes are 3 4th-grade divine alchemy fires and 3 5th-grade divine alchemy fires. Qin Feiyang opened them one by one, and after confirming that there were no mistakes, he put them away. The steward smiled and said, Brotherly, are you satisfied? Not bad. Qin Feiyang nodded and asked suspiciously, But why aren't there any 6th-grade divine alchemy fires? The steward's expression stiffened and he sighed, To tell you the truth, even in the treasure hall, 6th-grade divine alchemy fires are few and far between. Moreover, the chief pavilion master knows all of these alchemy fires, so I really didn't dare to take the risk and steal them. Please forgive me. Actually, a 6th grade divine alchemy furnace is the same. The chief pavilion master knows all of them. So, this fire cloud furnace doesn't belong to the treasure hall. I went out to buy it some time ago. The steward added. I see. Qin Feiyang nodded and smiled, then I'll have to trouble you. It's no trouble at all. As long as you're satisfied. The steward hurriedly waved his hand. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and got up. All right then, I'll take my leave first. Wait. The steward hurriedly reached out to stop Qin Feiyang. What's wrong? Qin Feiyang looked at him suspiciously. Brotherly, look, I've given you the alchemy fire and furnace for free. Then, can you destroy the video recorded by your friend? The steward looked at Qin Feiyang flatteringly. Destroy? That won't do. What if you bite me again after destroying the evidence? It's all in the past. Even if what I say is true, no one will believe me. Qin Feiyang said. How is that possible? Even if I have 100 guts, I won't dare to provoke you again. Brotherly, don't worry. I've really turned over a new leaf. The steward was burning with anxiety and looked at Qin Feiyang pitifully. Chapter 2552. Qin Feiyang shook his head. I won't do anything risky before I gain your trust, so there's no room for discussion. The treasure pavilion manager slumped on the chair, his heart full of bitterness. You have no reason to blame me for this, because you caused it. Think about it, how polite was I to you when we first met? But what about you? You played me like a fool. My life motto is that you have to pay the price for doing wrong. Qin Feiyang said indifferently. The treasure pavilion manager lowered his head and said, I'm sorry. In his heart, it was too late for regrets. Why did he think he was smart and self-righteous? Qin Feiyang glanced at the manager, pondered for a moment, and said, wait for me. After that, he disappeared without a trace. The manager looked up at the place where Qin Feiyang disappeared, then lowered his head again, his fat face full of regret. In the ancient castle. Qin Feiyang took out the 6 clusters of alchemy fire and merged them with the nether devil flame. Boom! In less than 10 breaths. The nether devil flame soared to the 6th grade alchemy fire. How many dragon-shaped divine pills could be refined with a 6th grade alchemy fire and a 6th grade alchemy furnace? Qin Feiyang was looking forward to it. About a few hundred breaths later, 10 divine life pills came out. Qin Feiyang looked at the 10 divine life pills with an extremely excited expression. There were 3 dragon-shaped alchemy fires on the pills. Majestic life energy filled every corner of the ancient castle. The bruises and scars on Qin Feiyang's body disappeared in the blink of an eye. It seems that before entering the Nether King's Hell, I have to refine more divine life pills. Qin Feiyang murmured. Although there were only 2 more dragon-shaped alchemy fires, the effect was worlds apart. Swish. Then. He appeared in the room again. This is life energy? Sensing the sudden emergence of a majestic vitality, the steward immediately looked up at Qin Feiyang. However, when he saw the 10 divine elixirs floating in front of Qin Feiyang, his eyes lit up. Among the elixirs I saw on the 10th floor, the highest one had 2 dragon-shaped elixirs. Therefore, this life elixir with 3 dragon-shaped elixirs should be quite valuable. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. It's more than a little valuable. This pill is definitely a priceless treasure. The steward ran over to Qin Feiyang and stared at the 10 life divine pellets in front of him. Then consider this a reward for your hard work. After all, you've worked hard to find the fire cloud cauldron for me. Qin Feiyang smiled. Reward me? The manager was taken aback. Although the divine life pill with 3 dragon-shaped core energies was indeed rare, it was still not as good as the fire cloud cauldron. Don't want it? Qin Feiyang frowned. No, no, no. The steward quickly waved his hand and put it away. It would be a waste if he didn't want it. Qin Feiyang shook his head and sighed. You're not thinking clearly. The manager looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. What did he mean by that? Qin Feiyang said, haven't you noticed that there's a huge business opportunity in front of you? Business opportunity? The manager was even more confused. Qin Feiyang asked, is the Nether King's Hell about to open? Yes. There's still 2 years left. The manager nodded. 2 years? Qin Feiyang was stunned. So soon? Although the news had spread outside, Qin Feiyang, who had been cultivating in the Black Tortoise world, only knew about it now. The manager urged, brotherly, tell me quickly, what kind of business opportunity is it? Qin Feiyang said, it said that the Nether King's Hell has a slim chance of survival. What do you need the most to enter such a place? The manager said without hesitation, what you need the most is courage and strength. Qin Feiyang was stunned for a moment, then nodded. That's true. What else? What else? The manager pondered for a moment and shook his head at Qin Feiyang. Are you stupid? Of course, what you need is pills. Pills are the most commonly used means to save your life. Especially these divine life pills. Qin Feiyang said. I understand now, I understand now. The manager slapped his head and said, you mean, you want me to sell a lot of divine life pills at this time? That's right. Look, the divine elixir of life is very helpful for healing injuries. Especially these 3 divine life pills with dragon-shaped pill chi. If you put them up for auction now, won't it cause a frenzy? Isn't this a business opportunity to make money? Qin Feiyang said. That's right, that's right. The manager nodded and said in admiration, brotherly, I didn't know you had such a business mind. I just don't like doing business. Otherwise, you wouldn't be the manager of the treasure pavilion in Holy Dragon City. Qin Feiyang smiled. Yes, yes, yes. The steward nodded with a flattering smile on his face, however, the 10 divine life pills you've given me are still too few. Qin Feiyang said, it's none of my business. I'm only responsible for giving you ideas. Brotherly, how about this? Let's continue working together. The treasure pavilion will provide the ingredients, and you'll be responsible for refining the pills. We'll split the profits according to the ratio. The steward rolled his eyes and said with a smile. Not interested. Qin Feiyang shook his head. He didn't lack soul stones or divine crystals. What was the point of doing this? Brotherly, as you said, this is a big business. The profits are frighteningly high. Why aren't you interested? The manager was a little helpless. It doesn't necessarily have to be the divine life elixir with 3 dragon-shaped elixirs. 1 or 2 divine life elixir can also increase the price by several times. Alright, I still have something to do. I'll take my leave first. Do as you see fit. After saying that, Qin Feiyang opened an altar and left. How can 1 or 2 divine life pills compare to 3 divine life pills with dragon core chi? The manager rubbed his forehead. Wait. Could it be that opening an altar and leaving was just a pretense like the last time? The manager hurriedly released his divine will and didn't find any spatial divine items in the room. He was relieved. Then, he sat by the tea table and pondered. How could he persuade this person to cooperate with the treasure pavilion? If he could do this and bring great benefits to the treasure pavilion, the chief pavilion lord would definitely look at him in a new light. In the future, his status in the treasure school would also instantly rise. Right. Didn't he want the alchemy fire and cauldron? Then I'll give them to him. Okay, it's decided. I'll ask the chief pavilion lord first. The manager immediately took out an image crystal and sent a message to the chief pavilion lord. Back to Qin Feiyang. At this moment, he landed at the bottom of the stone stairs outside the Dragon God Palace and scanned the surroundings. In the past, every time he went in and out, he would meet many disciples of the Dragon God Palace here. They were either there to train or to eat, drink, and have fun. But this time, there was no one here. It seemed that everyone was preparing to enter the Nether King's hell. There are only 2 years left. I have to hurry up and cultivate. Qin Feiyang whispered and was about to call Frenzy out. But suddenly, a deadly sense of danger came from behind him. Qin Feiyang shuddered and turned around abruptly. He saw a beam of divine light shooting out from the distant mountains and charging towards him at lightning speed. Who is it? Qin Feiyang shouted. The aura of this divine light didn't seem very strong. He blasted it, and the divine light was immediately shattered. However, he was also forced back a few steps. And from this, he could tell that the person who ambushed him was at least a greater god. Swish! Qin Feiyang rushed into the sky and looked toward the mountains. He immediately saw a figure fleeing into the distance. You want to leave after ambushing me? Qin Feiyang smiled sinisterly. Using the walk formula, he chased after him like a flash of lightning. That person's speed seemed to be slower than Qin Feiyang's. The distance between the two kept getting closer. From the back, it was a middle-aged man about 1.8 meters tall. He was thin and wore a snow-white robe. The aura he exuded was indeed that of a greater god. The two of them rushed into the depths of the Dragon God Mountain range one after another. Who are you? Why did you ambush me? Qin Feiyang shouted. Dozens of sword shadows appeared out of nowhere, and the sharpness was earth-shattering as they slashed toward the middle-aged man. The Guiyuan sword technique. The Guiyuan sword technique was now a legendary divine technique, and its power was several times stronger than before. The void collapsed one after another. The earth was also shaking. A legendary divine technique? The middle-aged man was stunned. Then, he slapped out with his palm. A fiery red divine power appeared and turned into a huge flaming sword. It slashed toward the Guiyuan sword technique as if it could split heaven and earth. There was a loud rumble. Under Qin Feiyang's incredulous gaze, the dozens of sword shadows formed by the Guiyuan sword technique shattered like withered wood. It was a complete suppression. The flaming sword didn't stop at all. It carried a destructive aura as it slashed toward Qin Feiyang. Humph! Qin Feiyang snorted coldly. He took a step forward, and a monstrous aura erupted from the bottom of his feet. The second step was even stronger. He took 9 steps in a row. Accompanied by a loud dragon's roar, a 10,000-meter-long heavenly dragon roared out. Heavenly dragon 9 steps. With the 9th step, he could summon a heavenly dragon. The heavenly dragon roared in the sky and rushed toward the flaming sword. The two immediately dissipated in the void. The destructive aura surged in all directions. So strong? Qin Feiyang was shocked. This flaming sword was definitely formed by a divine technique, and it was at least a legendary divine technique. At the same time, the middle-aged man waved his hand, and the crazy battle fluctuations instantly calmed down. Then, he slowly turned around and looked at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang was stunned. This person's face was actually wearing a mask. But inexplicably, this person gave him a sense of familiarity. The middle-aged man smiled and said, "Not bad, you actually mastered a supreme divine technique. Who exactly are you?" Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. The middle-aged man smiled faintly and said, "If you want to know who I am, then it depends on your ability." Okay. Then, just wait for your despair. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and 3,000 clones appeared. You have already cultivated 3,000 clones to perfection? The middle-aged man was surprised. Qin Feiyang was also surprised and shouted, "How do you know 3,000 clones?" "I know far more than you think." The middle-aged man waved his hand, and a wave of flame divine power rolled out. The next moment, a palm-sized divine seal appeared. The divine seal was fiery red, and at the bottom, there was a fire phoenix clinging to it. Qin Feiyang looked at the divine seal in a daze. It was actually the first style of the fire phoenix art, fire phoenix seal. Chapter 2553. Fire Phoenix Technique. As far as Qin Feiyang knew, other than the Lu family, he was the only one who knew the Fire Phoenix technique in this world. And this person actually knew about the 3,000 incarnations? A figure suddenly appeared in Qin Feiyang's mind. Could it be him? The Fire Phoenix seal had already arrived. That aura had reached the level of the Supreme Divine Technique. Qin Feiyang looked at the middle-aged man in front of him, the corners of his mouth lifted slightly, and he shouted to the 3,000 incarnations, "Kill him!" Boom! Immediately, flames soared into the sky. In the sky above, 3,001 fire phoenix seals instantly appeared. This aura, the middle-aged man was startled. It had actually reached the level of the Supreme Divine Technique. Kill! Qin Feiyang and the 3,000 incarnations roared in unison. The Fire Phoenix seal immediately collided with the Fire Phoenix technique on the opposite side like a meteor. Boom! Crack! Accompanied by a series of earth-shaking loud noises, after losing hundreds of Fire Phoenix seals, the opposite Fire Phoenix seal finally collapsed. "Don't stop! How dare you sneak attack me, directly cripple him!" Qin Feiyang shouted. The remaining 2,000 or so Fire Phoenix seals bombarded the middle-aged man. "Cripple me?" The middle-aged man's mouth twitched. What an arrogant brat! It seemed that if he didn't teach him a lesson, he wouldn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Boom! Suddenly, the middle-aged man's aura soared, and he slammed his palm into the air. A wave of divine power surged out, crushing the 2,000 or so Fire Phoenix seals as easily as crushing dry weeds. "Still hiding your strength?" Qin Feiyang was furious, and he decisively activated the kill technique, and a blood-red flash instantly appeared in front of the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man snorted coldly, and still slapped with his bare hands. Boom! The blood-red flash immediately dissipated. What? Qin Feiyang looked shocked, and suddenly a monstrous murderous intent emerged. As the blood-red light burst out, a blood-red long sword appeared. The middle-aged man's expression changed, and he said angrily, "Bastard brat, are you serious? Do you think I'm playing house with you?" Qin Feiyang sneered. The middle-aged man was speechless. But suddenly, he looked in the direction of the Dragon God Palace, and his pupils shrank as he hurriedly said, "Yi Zhong is here, stop." As he spoke, the middle-aged man waved his hand and quickly erased the battle fluctuations here. What? Qin Feiyang's expression changed, and he hurriedly led the middle-aged man into the castle. Soon, a white-haired old man flew over. He stopped in midair and scanned his surroundings. Where is he? He then released his inner sight, but found nothing in the void of space. After looking at him suspiciously for a while, Yi Zhong turned around and left. Inside the castle, Qin Feiyang heaved a sigh of relief when he saw Yi Zhong leaving. The middle-aged man let out a long breath and turned to look at Qin Feiyang. He snorted coldly and said, "Boy, you've got guts. You even want to kill me. Who are you? Do I know you?" Qin Feiyang looked at him coldly. Playing dumb? The middle-aged man's face darkened as he said angrily, if you didn't recognize me, how dare you bring me to the castle? I really didn't recognize you. Who are you? Why did you sneak attack me? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. The middle-aged man couldn't help but be angry and took off his mask. Immediately, a weather-beaten face appeared in Qin Feiyang's line of sight. It was indeed a middle-aged face. His facial features were as if they were carved by a knife. His 2 eyebrows were as neat as a knife. There were wisps of white hair at his temples, emitting an aura of vicissitudes. It's really him. Qin Feiyang muttered in his heart. That's right. This person was Lu Zhengyang. Although he had never seen Lu Zhengyang's original body, he had seen Lu Zhengyang's statue and could recognize him at a glance. And when he saw the Fire Phoenix technique before, he had indeed guessed that it was Lu Zhengyang. He pretended not to know because he wanted to cooperate with Lu Zhengyang to finish this show. If his identity was exposed, wouldn't Lu Zhengyang lose face? Qin Feiyang's eyes turned, and he looked at Lu Zhengyang in surprise and said, "You are, still pretending?" Lu Zhengyang's veins were bulging. He didn't believe that Qin Feiyang couldn't recognize him. You, aren't you? Ancestor Lu Zhengyang? So it's you. I'm sorry, I really didn't recognize you before, Qin Feiyang hurriedly apologized, full of fear. You're not done, are you? Lu Zhengyang glared at him angrily. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "Don't you like to act? Then I'll definitely cooperate with you. Respect the old and love the young." Lu Zhengyang rolled his eyes, then began to look at the castle. Why did you suddenly come to see me? Qin Feiyang looked at him suspiciously. Can't I come to see you? Lu Zhengyang said lightly, walked out of the castle, and shook his head as he glanced outside. Qin Feiyang followed him out and said with a smile, "Look at what you're saying. It's my honor that you can come. Did you eat honey?" Lu Zhengyang was speechless. Qin Feiyang scratched his head and laughed dryly. Lu Zhengyang? Suddenly, Fire Lotus came from afar and looked at Lu Zhengyang in surprise. "Palace Master, long time no see." Lu Zhengyang cupped his hands and smiled. "You know each other?" Qin Feiyang looked at the 2 of them in surprise. "I had the honor of meeting you once." Fire Lotus smiled and walked closer. Looking at Lu Zhengyang, she said with emotion, "It's been many years. How have you been these years?" "Pretty good." Lu Zhengyang nodded and said with a smile, "Thank you for taking care of this kid all these years. You're being too polite. Besides, it's Qin Dage who has always been taking care of me." Fire Lotus shook her head. "Qin Dage?" Lu Zhengyang was stunned and turned to look at Qin Feiyang with a strange look in his eyes. "Ancestor, is there a problem?" Qin Feiyang looked at him suspiciously. "Do you know how old she is? According to age and seniority, I have to address her as a junior." Lu Zhengyang transmitted his voice. Qin Feiyang said secretly, "You still have to address yourself as a junior in front of Fire Lotus? Then I'm her brother and sister. Don't you have to address me as? Get lost." Without waiting for Qin Feiyang to finish, Lu Zhengyang glared at him fiercely. Qin Feiyang smiled embarrassedly. Fire Lotus smiled and said, "Let's go to the courtyard over there and sit and talk." "Okay." Lu Zhengyang nodded. Although his cultivation was now stronger than Fire Lotus, he was still very polite to Fire Lotus. The 3 of them entered the courtyard and sat in the pavilion. Fire Lotus began to make tea. Qin Feiyang smiled and asked, "Ancestor, what do you think of my black tortoise world?" Lu Zhengyang looked around and said with a smile, "It's very good." "How did you get the black tortoise world?" "I heard from Zhao Tailai and the others. It's rare." "Yes. When I got the black tortoise world, I was really fighting to survive." Qin Feiyang nodded. For a moment, he was filled with emotions. At that time, no one would have thought that only mortals could enter the Great Hall. Feiyang, have you ever thought that the small beast might be helping you? Lu Zhengyang said. Helping me? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Yes. Think about it. At that time, it killed everyone in the depths of the desert. Then, you opened the gate of rebirth to save everyone and lost your cultivation. And that great hall can only be entered by mortals. Could it be that the small beast wanted you to enter that great hall and get the Black Tortoise world, so it used this method to destroy your cultivation? Lu Zhengyang analyzed. Qin Feiyang fell silent. Suddenly, a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. Whether it's helping me or not, I won't let it go. Lu Zhengyang asked, is it because of your cousin and the inner demons? Yes. And Uncle Yuan. In order to protect the Qin clan, Uncle Yuan became the guardian of the great Qin Empire. And as a price, his cultivation will forever stop at the half-step Divine Lord realm. I don't know how to help Uncle Yuan. But I think that if the small beast dies, the curse will definitely disappear. Qin Feiyang said. Lu Zhengyang comforted him. Actually, you don't have to blame yourself because I believe that neither your cousin nor the inner demons will blame you. It'll be good if they blame me because at least it means that they're still alive. Qin Feiyang said dejectedly. Sigh. Lu Zhengyang sighed inwardly and didn't know how to continue comforting him. He patted Qin Feiyang's shoulder, indicating that he should be more open-minded. After Fire Lotus brewed tea, she looked at the two of them and smiled. Let's not talk about these things. Have some tea. Yes, let's not talk about it. Lu Zhengyang waved his hand. He picked up the teacup and sniffed it. His eyes immediately lit up and he started tasting it. His face was filled with reminiscence. Seeing that Qin Feiyang was still a little dejected, she smiled. This is heavenly immortal dew, right? Qin Feiyang started and asked in astonishment, you know about it? Of course. I once stayed in the Eastern Tomb for a long period of time. And the heavenly immortal tower is the place I frequented the most. Lu Zhengyang smiled and asked, oh right, who is the current tower lord of the heavenly immortal tower? It's useless to ask Qin Dage because he doesn't even know Miss Heavenly Immortal's name. But I can answer you. The current tower lord of the heavenly immortal tower is Old Pang's granddaughter. Fire Lotus smiled. His granddaughter? Lu Zhengyang was stunned. Emicham, Fire Lotus nodded. I didn't expect his granddaughter to be able to hold her own. Time really flies. Lu Zhengyang shook his head and sighed. Since you've stayed in the Eastern Tomb, why haven't I heard any rumors about you? Qin Feiyang looked at Lu Zhengyang suspiciously. One has to keep a low profile. Lu Zhengyang smiled. How can one become one of the 4 sovereigns of the Dragon Slayer Palace by keeping a low profile? Qin Feiyang was speechless. You don't say. I'm really not interested in the sovereigns of the Dragon Slayer Palace. Back then, I founded the Dragon Slayer Palace with Qin Batian because he tricked me. Now, I can't wait for someone to replace me. Feiyang, you're quite capable. Why don't you do it? Lu Zhengyang said. Me? Forget it. Qin Feiyang hurriedly waved his hand. He wasn't interested in such a tedious task. After all, I'm considered half your ancestor. Aren't you going to help me with such a small matter? Lu Zhengyang was dissatisfied. It's not like you don't know me. I'm more afraid of trouble than you are. Let's talk about it later. It's related to the sovereigns of the Dragon Slayer Palace. This is just a small matter. You really treat me like a 3-year-old child. Qin Feiyang shook his head speechlessly. Lu Zhengyang smiled embarrassedly. Qin Feiyang took a sip of tea and said indifferently, you didn't come here just to chat with me, right? Chapter 2554. Look at what you're saying. Can't I come to see you? Lu Zhengyang said discontentedly. I've been in the Divine Prefecture for so long, but you haven't come to see me. Now that the Hell of the Nether King has opened, you come to see me. Don't tell me that this is a coincidence. Qin Feiyang pursed his lips. Ahem. Lu Zhengyang coughed and said with a smile, of course, when I came to see you, I also wanted to tell you something. Something? The corner of Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched. He said speechlessly, I think you have something to tell me, so you came to see me on the way. You brat, can't you save me some face? Lu Zhengyang glared at him angrily. See through but don't say it. Haven't you heard of this saying? Qin Feiyang nodded and said, okay. Tell me. This unfilial descendant will listen to your teachings. Ahem. Lu Zhengyang coughed and said, how much do you know about the Hell of the Nether King? Almost everything. And Yi Zhong personally told me that this is a conspiracy against me. Qin Feiyang said. Lu Zhengyang said in surprise, Yi Zhong personally told you that? Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. Lu Zhengyang frowned, then patted his head and said with a smile, look at my brain. As soon as I saw you, I was so excited that I forgot that you are Li Bu, now, Yi Zhong's disciple. I really couldn't tell that you were so excited. Qin Feiyang said lightly. What's with your belly full of complaints? Lu Zhengyang looked at Qin Feiyang angrily. Qin Feiyang said, you know very well. Know what? Lu Zhengyang frowned. Qin Feiyang took a sip of tea and said, there are some things that I really have to say. To be honest, I have a great prejudice against you and the ancestors. Lu Zhengyang couldn't help but feel a little guilty. He smiled and said, what prejudice? First. You've taken all the people around me to the dragon-slaying palace. You've even sent people to take the demon ancestor and Dong Zhengyang away. But you've left me alone. What's the meaning of this? Secondly. I've been in the Divine Land all these years. Have any of you come to see me? What I'm talking about is simply visiting me. The ancestor did appear, but that was because he had something to do. If there was nothing else, I probably wouldn't have shown up until now. Then there's no need to talk about you, old ancestor. If it weren't for the Underworld King, would you have come here? Qin Feiyang snorted. This, Lu Zhengyang looked embarrassed. I think, in your eyes, I'm not even as good as outsiders like Mu Tianyang. Qin Feiyang said. This, it's true that we neglected and didn't consider your feelings. Lu Zhengyang smiled sheepishly. Qin Feiyang glanced at him and asked, do you know why I've caused such a big commotion in the Divine Land time and time again? Why? Lu Zhengyang looked at him suspiciously. I just want to attract your attention. For example, the fierce battle with Long Zun and the 6 ancestral dragons in the Internal Sea last time, although it was to buy time for Fire Lotus and the others, it was also to attract your attention. In short, I'm just trying to make my presence known in front of you. Qin Feiyang said. Lu Zhengyang couldn't help but fall silent when he heard this. He never expected Qin Feiyang to have such a side to him. After hearing these words, do you think I'm very pitiful? Do I have to deliberately make my presence known in front of my family? In fact, even I feel quite pitiful. No, that's humble. Qin Feiyang laughed self-deprecatingly. Lu Zhengyang said apologetically, Feiyang, I'm sorry. We didn't think of this. We all thought I was very strong. Yes. I usually have an indifferent attitude, but no matter what, I'm still a person of flesh and blood, right? I can also taste the fickleness of human nature. I also know what loneliness and loss are. I'm not made of iron. I'm immune to all poisons. Even if I'm made of iron, there will be a day when I rust. Qin Feiyang said. Yes, yes, yes. Lu Zhengyang nodded repeatedly. That's enough. Let's not talk about this. Otherwise, you'll sound like a resentful wife. I've already decided on the matter of the Nether King's hell. No matter how much you say, it's useless. Qin Feiyang waved his hand. Do you really want to go in? What's the reason? Lu Zhengyang frowned. Qin Feiyang said, I want to become stronger. Is this reason enough? There are many ways to become stronger. There's no need to go to the Nether King's hell. Lu Zhengyang said. This is a shortcut. Although every step is dangerous, there's no such thing as a free lunch in this world. Also, although I accepted the task you gave me, I did it for your sake, not for the sake of the Dragon Slayer Palace. Don't force anything on me. Qin Feiyang said lightly. Force anything? Lu Zhengyang was taken aback. For example, you want me to hand over the heaven-defying divine artifact. Qin Feiyang said. Lu Zhengyang's heart skipped a beat. This kid was really disgusted by these things. He couldn't help but worry. He and Qin Badian would definitely not do this, but it was hard to say what the other two sovereigns would do. If this matter wasn't handled properly, with this kid's character, he would probably wash his hands of it. He might even point his finger at the Dragon Slayer Palace. It seemed that he had to find another time to have a good talk with the other two sovereigns. Don't worry, they won't. Lu Zhengyang said with a smile. It's best that they won't. Qin Feiyang had a smile on his face, and asked, Then I'll take you around the Black Tortoise world? Sure. Lu Zhengyang nodded. Now, he couldn't continue to persuade Qin Feiyang. Because of Qin Feiyang's words, it was he who felt guilty in his heart. He was thinking about how he could make up for what he owed this little fellow. In the next few days, Qin Feiyang took Lu Zhengyang to various places in the Black Tortoise world. Looking at everything in the Black Tortoise world, Lu Zhengyang was also amazed. The Black Tortoise world is what it is today because of the Fire Lotus. On the peak of a mountain. Qin Feiyang glanced at the surrounding mountains and rivers and said with a smile. Lu Zhengyang said, It seems that you have deep feelings for the Fire Lotus. From knowing each other to knowing each other until now, we've been through too much. Tell me the truth. My feelings for the Fire Lotus far exceed yours and ancestors. Qin Feiyang said. Lu Zhengyang said unhappily, Aren't you afraid that we'll be jealous? This is the truth. Qin Feiyang pursed his lips. Lu Zhengyang felt helpless in his heart. He really didn't care about their feelings. By the way, ancestor. Let Zhao Tailai and the others return to my side. Qin Feiyang said. Why? Lu Zhengyang was stunned. Qin Feiyang said, There's no future if I follow you. What the hell? Say that again? Lu Zhengyang raised his eyebrows. Qin Feiyang said, There's no future if I follow you. Lu Zhengyang immediately said angrily, Boy, are you arrogant? Are you angry? Qin Feiyang looked at him suspiciously. Lu Zhengyang said, Of course, if it were you, wouldn't you be angry? But I'm telling the truth. First, the time array. The time array of the dragon-slaying palace is 50 years a day, but the time array of the Black Tortoise world and the ancient castle is 100 years a day. The difference is double. Next, the divine techniques and artifacts. There may be more divine techniques and artifacts in the dragon-slaying palace's treasury, but can you guarantee that you'll give them the best? You can't guarantee it, but I can. Finally, cultivation. The dragon-slaying palace must have many spirit veins and crystal veins, but I guess that they may not be comparable to what I have now. Qin Feiyang said with a confident smile. Hearing this, Lu Zhengyang was speechless for a moment. You might say that you can also teach them the experience of entering the imperishable realm. But now, I have many imperishable realm cultivators with me. And I have 10 heaven-defying divine artifacts. Although they are divine artifacts, they should have more experience than us. So, in my opinion, if old Zhao and the others continue to stay in the dragon-slaying palace, they will only destroy their own future. Qin Feiyang said. Hearing this, Lu Zhengyang smiled bitterly. Of course. I'm also very grateful to you and the ancestor for taking care of them during this period. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. You little brat, Lu Zhengyang scolded with a smile and nodded. Okay, when I go back, I'll ask them to come to you. Thank you, ancestor. Qin Feiyang was overjoyed. Lu Zhengyang sized up Qin Feiyang, shook his head and said, That's not right. Your goal shouldn't be that simple, right? Purpose? Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned and said, They are all my companions. What purpose can I have for them? That's not what I mean. What I mean is, you're doing it because of the mermaid princess. Lu Zhengyang said. Ahem. Qin Feiyang coughed dryly. I guessed right. If you want the mermaid princess to stay by your side, just say it. Lu Zhengyang teased. That's one thing. Qin Feiyang smiled awkwardly. I say, since you like her, why don't you just marry her? Lu Zhengyang was suspicious. Isn't it because I want to come to the ancient world to look for you and the ancestor? Otherwise, we would have been married long ago. Maybe we would have a lot of children by now. Qin Feiyang said. A lot of children? You're really not afraid of blushing when you talk. Lu Zhengyang's face twitched, and he said, Do you mean that we're holding you back? Of course. Qin Feiyang nodded. Okay. I'll go back and discuss with your ancestor and the Mermaid Emperor to arrange your marriage. Lu Zhengyang said. Don't. Qin Feiyang hurriedly waved his hand. What do you mean? Lu Zhengyang looked at him in confusion. I don't care how others get married, but when I get married, father, mother, grandfather, Uncle Yuan, and great-grandfather must be present. Qin Feiyang said. Lu Zhengyang said in surprise, I didn't know that you were so filial. You still can't tell? If I'm not filial, why would I come all the way to look for you and the ancestor? I finally realize now that I'm really stupid. Okay. Tomorrow, when Zhao Tailai and the others come back, I'll take them back to the Great Qin. Qin Feiyang said sadly. Lu Zhengyang rolled his eyes and said, Okay, don't talk nonsense. Send me out, but I hope you'll think about the matter of the Nether King's hell. Since I've decided, what's there to think about? Men should be more decisive and be more ruthless to themselves. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Bastard. Lu Zhengyang glared at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang grinned and sent Lu Zhengyang out. Although a few days had passed in the Black Tortoise realm, only a short while had passed outside. Worried that Yi Zhong would discover him, Lu Zhengyang immediately opened a teleportation altar and left as soon as he appeared in the sky above the Dragon God mountain range. Chapter 2555. Qin Feiyang also returned to the Devil's Land. Has he left? Seeing that only Qin Feiyang came back, Fire Lotus asked with a smile. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. Fire Lotus thought for a while and asked curiously, Qin Dage, what you've done all these years, are you really trying to find a sense of existence? Don't touch on my sore spot, okay? Qin Feiyang was helpless. He already felt embarrassed to say these words that were hidden in his heart. Now you're asking? Aren't you embarrassing me even more? But then again, after saying these words, he felt a lot more comfortable in his heart. Buzz. At this moment, the image crystal rang. Qin Feiyang took out the image crystal and looked at Fire Lotus. Fire Lotus understood and walked to the side. When the image crystal was turned on, a shadow immediately emerged. Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned. Why was it Ren Xiaolan? Ren Xiaolan looked at Qin Feiyang and asked with a smile, "Young Masterly, I hope I didn't disturb you." "No." Qin Feiyang shook his head and asked, "What's the matter?" Ren Xiaolan said, "The steward is looking for you." "Steward?" Qin Feiyang was stunned and waved his hand, "Just say that I'm not free." After saying that, he was about to turn off the image crystal. But at this moment, a figure jumped to Ren Xiaolan's side and looked at Qin Feiyang aggrievedly. "Brotherly, do you dislike me so much?" This person was the Treasure Pavilion steward. Qin Feiyang shook his head helplessly and said, "If it's about the divine pill, let's talk face to face." "Don't. I've just asked the Chief Pavilion Master." The Chief Pavilion Master said that as long as Brotherly cooperates with our Treasure Pavilion, we are willing to give you 3 clusters of 6th grade Divine Pill Fire and a 7th grade Divine Pill Furnace for free. The Treasure Pavilion steward hurriedly said. Qin Feiyang was stunned and asked, "Really?" "Absolutely." Seeing that Qin Feiyang was somewhat tempted, the supervisor quickly nodded. Qin Feiyang lowered his head and pondered for a moment. He looked at the supervisor and said, "I'm a little confused. Is there no one in the Treasure Pavilion who can refine a divine pellet with 3 dragon-shaped core energies?" "No. Even the best alchemist in my Treasure Pavilion can only refine divine pills with 2 dragon-shaped core chi." The Treasure Pavilion manager shook his head. In his heart, he couldn't help but grumble. If the Treasure Pavilion had such an alchemist, would we even need to look for you? What about other places? The Divine Land is so big, there must be a few who can make it. Qin Feiyang said. There is. But we can't invite these people. The manager of the Treasure Pavilion was helpless. Even your Treasure Pavilion can't move? Qin Feiyang was stunned. That's not strange, right? After all, alchemists at your level basically don't lack anything. So, ordinary things can't move them at all. Then there's someone like your master Yizhong. Even if he's tempted by a treasure, he won't refine it for us. The manager of the Treasure Pavilion smiled bitterly. That makes sense. Qin Feiyang nodded. However, he suddenly looked stunned and said, "What did you just say? My master Yizhong is also an alchemist?" The manager of the Treasure Pavilion was also stunned and asked in return, "You don't know?" "I don't know." Qin Feiyang shook his head. The manager of the Treasure Pavilion looked at Qin Feiyang in shock and shook his head. "Brotherly, you don't even know that Yizhong is an alchemist. You're not qualified to be a disciple." Qin Feiyang smiled embarrassedly. He really didn't know much about Yizhong. Your master not only has a high cultivation level, but he's also recognized as the best in the Divine Land in alchemy. Do you know? He can refine divine pills with 4 dragon-shaped elixir auras. The manager of the Treasure Pavilion said. What? Qin Feiyang was shocked. And he's also the only person in the Divine Land who has a 9th grade Divine Elixir Fire and a 9th grade Divine Elixir Furnace. The manager of the Treasure Pavilion said again. 9th grade Divine Elixir Fire. 9th grade Divine Elixir Furnace. Qin Feiyang's eyes trembled. He didn't expect the master he picked up to be so terrifying. How is it? Is it an eye-opener? The manager of the Treasure Pavilion said with a smile. Qin Feiyang nodded and said, "You said that he's the only person in the Divine Land who has a 9th grade Divine Elixir Fire and an Elixir Furnace. Does that mean that even the Treasure Pavilion doesn't have a 9th grade Divine Elixir Fire and an Elixir Furnace?" No. As far as I know, the best Divine Elixir Fire and Elixir Furnace in the Treasure Pavilion are 8th grade. The manager of the Treasure Pavilion said. Qin Feiyang nodded and asked, what about Qin Badian? Since his ancestor could refine divine elixirs, his elixir fire and elixir furnace must be of high level. Qin Badian? The manager of the treasure pavilion was stunned and said, I heard that he also has an 8th grade divine elixir fire and an elixir furnace. Heard? Qin Feiyang frowned. Qin Badian is the sovereign of the dragon-slaying palace. He's always been elusive. Even the treasure pavilion doesn't know much about him. The manager of the treasure pavilion shook his head. Qin Feiyang nodded and pondered for a moment. Okay, as long as you give me an elixir fire and an elixir furnace, I agree to cooperate with you. The manager of the treasure pavilion was overjoyed and said, then come to the treasure pavilion now. No, 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 I wouldn't dare to trouble you to come here in person. Where are you now? I'll go find you now. You're busy with work. Just ask Ren Xiaolan to come find me. Remember to bring an elixir fire, an elixir furnace, and the herbs you need to refine. I'll wait on the plains outside the Dragon God Mountain. After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he turned off the image crystal. Fire Lotus walked to Qin Feiyang and said, it seems that we still underestimated Yi Zhong. Yes. He has both strength and brains. Even his alchemy is so terrifying. I finally understand why our ancestor wanted him to join the dragon-slaying palace. Who wouldn't be tempted by such a person? Qin Feiyang shook his head. Fire Lotus asked, you're tempted too? Hey! He's my master. So what? We can't let outsiders benefit. Qin Feiyang chuckled. Outsiders? Fire Lotus was taken aback and said speechlessly, it seems that Qin Badian and Lu Zhengyang are not outsiders either. They're definitely not outsiders, but the other 2 emperors are. So, no matter what, we can't let Yi Zhong join the dragon-slaying palace. If he's going to stay, he'll stay by our side. Qin Feiyang laughed. You're really evil. But then again, if Yi Zhong is really willing to help you, it'll be like adding wings to a tiger. I'm afraid that not only the dragons, but even the dragon-slaying palace will be afraid of you. Fire Lotus said. That's right. However, dreams are beautiful, reality is cruel. It's harder than ascending to heaven to get him to help us. I'm wondering why he wants to help the dragons. Qin Feiyang frowned. Yi Qing doesn't know, and Yi Shui definitely doesn't know either. I'm afraid only Yi Zhong himself knows the answer. After Fire Lotus finished speaking, she added, there's also the Dragon Sovereign. Qin Feiyang nodded and said, only by figuring out the answer can we deal with the right problem. It'll be difficult. After all, even Yi Qing can't find out, let alone you. Fire Lotus sighed. Where there's a will, there's a way. Qin Feiyang smiled and controlled the Black Tortoise Realm to fly towards the plains. A moment later. The Black Tortoise Realm descended above the plains, but Ren Xiaolan hadn't arrived yet. Qin Feiyang stood in the courtyard with his head lowered, thinking about how to pry open Yi Zhong's mouth. Outside. About half an hour passed. A figure appeared. It was Ren Xiaolan. Ren Xiaolan glanced at the plains and saw that there was no one, so she waited quietly. Swish. But soon. Qin Feiyang appeared out of thin air. Greetings, young master. Ren Xiaolan hurriedly went up to greet him. Qin Feiyang asked, did you bring everything? Yes. Ren Xiaolan nodded and took out a Qianquan bag, handing it to Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang grabbed the Qianquan bag and released his spirit sense. When he saw the herbs in the Qianquan bag, the corner of his mouth twitched. The Qianquan bag was filled to the brim with herbs. Ren Xiaolan smiled and said, the steward said that although there are many herbs, there's no rush. You can refine them slowly. Qin Feiyang shook his head and took out 3 iron boxes from the Qianquan bag, opening them immediately. 3 clusters of elixir flames appeared in front of him. After confirming, they were indeed grade 6 divine elixir flames. Qin Feiyang took out another elixir furnace from the Qianquan bag. Like the fire cloud cauldron, it was also a cauldron-shaped elixir furnace. It was scarlet red like a scorching sun, emitting a dazzling treasure light. This cauldron is called the Heaven Flames Divine Cauldron. It's one of the best elixir furnaces in the treasure pavilion. Ren Xiaolan said. All right. Wait for me here. After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he entered the castle with the elixir flames, elixir furnace, and Qianquan bag. This, Ren Xiaolan wanted to ask if he should come back another day. After all, with so many herbs, it would definitely take a long time to refine. But before she could say anything, Qin Feiyang had already disappeared. And Qin Feiyang had a reason for asking Ren Xiaolan to deliver the herbs. Because Ren Xiaolan's cultivation hadn't reached the 9 heavens realm yet, her spirit sense couldn't capture spatial divine items. But the treasure pavilion steward was different. With his half-step eternal realm cultivation, no spatial divine item could escape his spirit sense. When the time came, if the treasure pavilion steward released his spirit sense on a whim and found that he couldn't find the castle, he would definitely suspect that he had a heavenly domain divine stone. A heavenly domain divine stone was a treasure of heaven and earth. Once the treasure pavilion steward found out, it would definitely cause a lot of trouble. In the castle, Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and said, Fire Lotus, come in and help me. Not long after, Fire Lotus entered the cultivation room. Looking at the Qianquan bag full of herbs, he couldn't help but shake his head and smile bitterly. Next, Fire Lotus was responsible for helping to organize the herbs. Qin Feiyang focused on refining pills. In the castle, time passed day by day. About half a year later, a whole bag of herbs was finally refined. They were all life divine pills. Qin Feiyang also didn't know how many medicinal pills there were. In any case, he was exhausted. And after refining these herbs, Qin Feiyang took out the 3 6th grade pill fires and let the nether devil flame fuse with them. Boom! Without any suspense, the nether devil flame directly soared to the 7th grade divine level pill fire level. Qin Dage, why didn't you fuse them earlier? Fire Lotus was suspicious. Qin Feiyang didn't answer, just smiled faintly. Then, he took out the 7th grade divine level pill furnace Heaven Flame Divine Furnace and tried to refine a life divine pill. In the end, 4 dragon-shaped pill chi were born. See? If I had fused the 3 pill fires earlier, wouldn't the treasure pavilion have benefited? Besides, I don't want people to know that I can refine pills with 4 dragon-shaped pill chi. Qin Feiyang smiled. Fire Lotus nodded in realization and said, you can refine 4 dragon-shaped pill chi with a 7th grade divine level pill fire and pill furnace. And Yi Zhong used a 9th grade divine level pill furnace and pill fire to refine 4 dragon-shaped pill chi. Does this mean that you don't lose to him in alchemy? In the end, Fire Lotus couldn't help laughing. Keep a low profile. Qin Feiyang smiled, put all the pills into the Qianquan bag, and then left the castle with the Qianquan ring. You're tuning into the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.